20 double O, 2000 baby. Eating palms, Monterey Road, I'm a project baby. Eagles Drive, we was at Oak Grove, barely graduated. We got Tasha, Molly, Bodie, corporate, stay gon' have to hate us.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the New Media Podcast. I'm your host, Ya. We hope you enjoyed the last episode. Today, I got the crew with me, and next, I'll be going in more in depth into today's topics. So, in the last episode, we discussed the NFC. In this episode, we're going to be discussing the AFC. We're going to go ahead and give our record and standing predictions. Next thing we'll cover will be a player we think will break out this year, and then we'll go ahead and close things out with a little bit of a game called Overrated, Underrated, and Properly Rated. We're going to be doing that for a group of running backs and a group of wide receivers that you'll be hearing about shortly. But before we jump into the topics, as always, we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of a temperature check. So how's everybody doing today?
Can't complain.
Chilling. Feeling good.
Long day, but I'm ready to go right now. Let's get it.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
Another day, another episode, man. I'm excited. So we'll go ahead and kick things off with the AFC East. Who do we have at one, Abdi?
A team that, in my opinion, should be the favorites for the Super Bowl. I think we're all in unanimous agreement here. They've been on the brink for the last 2 years in the playoffs. They got an elite quarterback who is elite of the elite. He's in the top four. They added Von Miller to this loaded defense, and it's the Bills. I have them finishing 14-3. They drafted James Cook. They retained that elite offense that they already had. They have a wide receiver in Gabriel Davis, who to me is going to have a great second year. And obviously, they have a guy in Stephon Diggs who's elite. So 100% the Bills.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like the Bills are probably, I'd say, the second favorite in my opinion for Super Bowl odds. They just have a stacked team top to bottom, and adding Von Miller absolutely helped it with that. And I have them winning the division as well with the record of, I'd say, 12-5.
Yeah, I also agree with you guys. I have the Bills winning this division, going through 13-4. They obviously have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now, if not the best, in my opinion. Even though they lost Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley, they still have their guy in Stephon Diggs, who is their true number one. They got highly rated wide receiver Gabe Davis and Dawson Knox, who is a good tight end option as well. A tiny issue they dealt with last season was they had some issues on the offensive line, and they went out and addressed that issue by bringing in guard Roger Saffold this offseason, which he fits their timeline because he's a little bit on the older side, but he still can block for sure. And on the defensive side, they have one of the best safety duos. They still have Tre'Davious White, who's shut down corner. That right side of the field will be on lockdown this entire season. And on the other side, they got guys like Kyrie Elam, they just drafted this year, and Dane Jackson. So they're out for a pretty good season, and these guys are my favorites to win the Super Bowl. I mean, I've been rocking with Josh Allen for the last couple of years, so it's right for them to take home this year. So I got the Bills going 13-4.
And to piggyback off what Chico said, I got the Bills going 13-4. Their defense upgraded once again. They had a great defense last year. They picked up Von Miller. They got Tre'Davious White back off an injury. They still have those two elite safeties, and then the offensive side is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, Josh Allen. Top 3, top 2, maybe even 1. You got Diggs on offense. You got Dawson Knox. You got Gabriel Davis. They're Super Bowl run for them is pretty much that's what they got to do this year.
Yeah, I think this one's pretty much a no-brainer. I have the Buffalo Bills going 14-3 though. Of course they signed Von Miller. They drafted a guy named James Cook that I'm pretty high on this year. We could speak all about their offense. We could speak all about their defense, but the main reason why I have them going 14-3 this year is because these last 2 years they've been having to go on the road to Arrowhead in a playoff game. So I feel like this year they're going to really want to bring a home game back to Buffalo, and they're going to play their hardest throughout the regular season. That way they can secure a spot. So the next time they make an AFC Championship game, teams got to go through Buffalo to get the job done. So Buffalo Bills 14-3 for me. We'll go ahead and move on to number 2.
Yeah, so here I have the Dolphins, surprisingly, because I am not a Tua believer at all. But I feel like he's been put in a situation where he's being forced to thrive. So you bring in a guy in Tyreek Hill, who's a top 3 wide receiver, in my opinion, and you pair him up with Jalen Waddle, who's going to have a monster second year. And you have a running back in Chase Edmonds, who to me is very underrated, and a new head coach in Mike Daniels. And that defense to me is being overlooked. The last 10 weeks last year, they're absolutely dominant. That was a big reason why they had that win total. And so I have them finishing 10-7.
I am not a believer in the Dolphins as much as you are. You have too much confidence in Tua. And then finishing second, I feel like the Patriots and Bill Belichick will go second in this division. He'll show that, his system works still. And I see Mac Jones taking that next step and him, potentially, not breaking out, but, making sure that they're a playoff team. They don't have the best weapons. They have that two tight end offense that they're going to try doing of the early 2000s, that Gronk and Hernandez with Henry and I forgot the
John Smith, I believe.
John Smith that they signed from Tennessee. So I have them going 10-6, 10-7, and finishing second.
Yeah, so for this one, I'm gonna take my time because I really like this team. I got the Miami Dolphins finishing second, 10-7. And I said this before, and I'm gonna say it again. The Miami Dolphins have heavily invested in Tua's development this year. For starters, Dolphins' biggest change will be on the offensive line. Terran Armstead, who recently signed with the Miami Dolphins, has earned a PFF grade of 85 or better in the 6 of the last 7 seasons, ranking 5th in the NFL last year. And PFF pass blocking grade last year, Connor Williams, who they're brought in this offseason, ranked 9th among qualified guards. So with these two gigantic signings for the Miami Dolphins, this offensive line, Miami fans should not worry about the line like collapsing constantly anymore because they got two mega weapons on the offensive line. And the second notable addition for this team is hiring head coach Mike McDaniels. Essentially, what he will bring to this offense is quick fire play action offensive schemes to help Tua, which that should definitely work with Tua's game. And on top of that, he was a part of the Kyle Shanahan system last year that ranked 13th in scoring and 7th in yardage play, despite having Jimmy G at quarterback. So there's a lot of great things to look at. Even Tyreek Hill, he's one of the best wide receivers in the game right now. And that Tua Tagovailoa has Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, the addition of Raheem Mostert, Chase Edmonds, Cedric Wilson. What all that means is Miami Dolphins are going speed, and explosiveness. This offense is primed to compete and make that playoff push. And I didn't mention their defense. I believe that they're a top 10 defense. And with this explosive offense led by Tua Tagovailoa, I think that they'll make a playoff push this year. I don't have them winning it, but they will make that playoff push for sure. But in the next couple of years, I feel like that's when Tua's going to take that next step. Make a deeper push into the playoffs. So I got the Miami Dolphins finishing second with a 10-7 record.
Yeah, I got the Dolphins finishing in second as well with the 10-7 record. To me, I have them over the Patriots just because of the additions they had this offseason, picking up Tyreek Hill, picking up Terran Armstead, Melvin Ingram on the defense is another key addition right there for them. Having Chase Edmonds and Mostert in the offense, they gave the pieces to it to show up. Now it's time for him to come out, prove the doubters wrong, come out and hoop. I got them going 10-7 as well. Yeah, 10-7.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to piggyback off of what Big H and Chico said. I have the Miami Dolphins going 10-7 as well. I'm expecting Tua to take that next step this year, and really excel as a quarterback with all the weapons around him. I feel like he kind of has no room to fail. So Miami Dolphins 10-7. We'll just go ahead and move on to number 3.
I'm a bit surprised that BLS would have the Patriots at number 2. This team, to me, when I look at it, I feel like this is the year where Belichick is really going to struggle. And he's going to feel the absence of Tom Brady for once. I feel like this is going to be the year. They have, to me, offensively, a complete lack of talent at wide receiver. They brought in Devontae Parker, but that's not enough for me to move the needles. They have Kendrick Bourne, Jonnu Smith, but that's still not enough for me on the offensive side of things to really make a push anywhere. They didn't make any big offseason acquisitions, and they lost Josh McDaniels, who to me, according to a lot of inside sources, was the biggest reason why Mac Jones was having the season that he was having. He was working closely with him. And I don't see Mac Jones as being that quarterback where it's like Trevor Lawrence, where he's going to raise the offense regardless of who's around him. They were big on protecting him as a quarterback, short throws. I mean, we remember the game against the Bills. I understand the conditions, but to go out there and not even like attempt to pass, to me, is just hilarious. And it just speaks about the offensive mindset of Belichick trying to protect his quarterback. We're going to see a lot of game management from that team, and I just see them finishing 8 and 9. They're just not going to be that good.
I totally want to contradict that. But for starters, with beginning with the fact that they finished with a 10-7 record last year. So if you feel like there's going to be a regression, it can't get worse than that. I feel like this team didn't lose big pieces, major pieces. With the Dolphins, though, however, I just feel like they have the talents, but they have a first-year head coach, and they have the lack of talent at the quarterback position. Of course, quarterback is the biggest thing. It leads your offense and everything. And Mac Jones has shown that, even if he is the game manager that you're calling him, that he can keep the ship afloat. And I have the Dolphins finishing third in the division with Tyreek and Waddle, which will be very disappointing, with a record of, I'd say, 8-9.
That's just ridiculous to me. Like,
Yeah.
I don't see it possible for a team that has Tyreek Hill, Waddle, and they already have an elite defense, in my opinion, not being able to finish ahead of the Patriots, who is starting Kendrick Bourne, Devontae Parker, and Jonnu Smith on the outside, compared to the wide receivers that the Dolphins have and the weapons that are available to Tua. And we're talking, and why are we talking as if Mac Jones is like levels on Tua as a quarterback? He's just not.
It's a step up, is it not? Do you not agree?
No, I do not believe it's a step up at all.
So you believe they're the same player?
I believe it's a step down.
It's a step down? Oh,
Yes.
wow.
In my
that's
opinion,
bold.
with the way
Bold take.
Belichick was protecting Mac Jones, I don't see them as a quarterback that's like on the same level as Tua. And I'm not big on Tua, but I believe he is better than Mac Jones.
That's respectable, I guess. But I don't know about that. But
Nah, I be showing Tua love is actually crazy, man.
I'm not a Tua fan.
No. Relax.
You're a fan. You're a closet.
I'm not a Tua fan.
Nah, the way you're speaking though, I don't know. I couldn't tell. But for me, I have the Patriots finishing third in this division with a record of 8-9. I mean, looking at their roster, they still have a functioning offensive line. They still have excellent running backs from Ramondre Stevens and Damon Harris. The Pats defense did get a little worse this year by losing guys like J.C. Jackson, Shaq Mason. So obviously there's it's gonna be a dip there for sure. And they gotten worse this offseason in general. I mean, with what all this means is like the guy like Mac Jones, right? I don't think he's gonna do well this year because the team didn't do anything to like support him, right? So with that, another thing that means is they haven't done enough for him to shut guys like me up, because I think Mac Jones is one of the worst quarterbacks in his draft class, but big name quarterbacks.
Yes.
You can't just say that.
Hopefully, I hope he's saving up his game checks, because I don't think he has much left in his league. I mean,
that's a very reasonable take.
It's not too late to go after that real estate license as well. So Mac Jones, he's not that guy for me. So I got them finishing 8-9.
That's not terrible to say.
I have the Patriots finishing 7-10. Like Chico said, they didn't add anybody in the offseason. I feel like every other team in the division has gotten better, has taken a step forward, added players, or drafted better players since last year. I feel like the Patriots, they lost two key defensive players like Shaq Mason, J.C. Jackson, the top 3 cornerback in the league, one of the best cornerbacks in the league. They lost. And they didn't add no offensive weapons for Mac Jones. The run game, you can't really trust Damian Harris. It's always mixed up. And for me, no addition, 7-10 this year. So that's what I see.
I honestly don't know where the Mac Jones slander is coming from. I believe that he's actually a really good quarterback, and he's going to be a good quarterback for quite some time in this league. But I have the New England Patriots going 9-8 for all the things you guys have mentioned. I just have a feeling that this year it might be Bill Belichick's last year as a head coach. I know that guy loves football like crazy, but at some point you got to call it quits. And I feel like after this season, when they struggle heavily, he's going to consider retiring and, just riding off into the sunset and just call it a career then, because it's just like you guys mentioned, like they didn't really add anybody in the offseason. The draft was pretty quiet as well. They don't really have a tough schedule, but you got to help your quarterback out. You got to get talent around him. You got to help the defense out, get talent there, re-sign guys. But they failed to do that. But I guess that's the Patriot way. So long story short, New England Patriots 9-8.
I feel like if you don't get better and you don't go out and grab any offseason acquisitions, and then the Dolphins go out and they get Tyreek Hill and they have a good draft and they do all these things and support their quarterback, and you're not doing the same for your quarterback in Mac Jones, I just feel like the situation that the Patriots got going on, there's just no way that they can
But
finish.
it's the Patriot way though. They don't splash heavy on free agents. They give minimal contracts to people that they have.
I mean, you can have the Patriots way with
on
Tom.
the free agency
The
last year.
Patriots
You
way.
can have the Patriots way with Tom Brady as a quarterback. You can't do that with Mac Jones.
Yeah,
Come on.
22 touchdowns and 16 turnovers last year.
That's not gonna cut it.
Yeah, it's not going to cut it. And then you don't add anybody for him on the offensive side. No O-line, no receiver, no tight end. It's running back with the same team again. Yeah, it's going
And
to
the
be
defense got worse.
Definitely.
going to be tough.
I mean, Devontae Parker's he's don't get me wrong, he's a good option, but can he stay healthy? That's the question.
He's always had health issues in his career.
Last
So
4.5, 5 years, been
Can he
injured.
stay healthy? So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like their running back too, Damian Harris. He's pretty
Ramondre
solid.
Stevens, yeah, definitely. They got
They got a nice 1-2 punch there. So they got pieces. It's not, you guys are making it seem like it's a JUCO team, man.
I mean, it should be at the wide receiver position, in my opinion. Like if Devontae Parker goes
Is
down, I
Devontae
feel bad for them.
Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar. Stay with
Oh,
that.
that's an Aguilar. Yeah, I don't want to.
That's bad.
Moving on to the.
go ahead and move on to number 4. I think that this one's pretty obvious.
I got the Jets here finishing 5-12. They drafted Chico's boy Sauce Gardner, adding him to an already young defense to me that's developing. They drafted wide receiver Garrett Wilson. And so I feel like this team's getting into a situation where they're building towards somewhere. They have Robert Saleh in his second year, and I feel like they're going to take a little step up and improve. But overall, I feel like they don't have enough talent yet to make any sort of contention in this division. So 5-12 is where I have them.
Yeah, I have them also finishing bottom of the league. Touching on what Abdi just said, they definitely have a bright future drafting Sauce Gardner and that number 1 pick that they had a few years back with the D-line guy. They just have pieces. Robert Saleh, of course, comes from the Kyle Shanahan tree, so he's gonna guide these guys in the right place. But they're still gonna be rebuilding with young talent, just trying to find a direction. And I have them going 4-13 as well.
Yeah, so I mean, after the NFC West, I think this is by far my favorite division. I have the Jets finishing last in the division as well. I have them going 5-12, and these guys can be really, really good really soon, but they just don't have enough right now to make it out the bottom of the division. I mean, once they develop their guys like Zach Wilson, Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Michael Carter, all those guys, that's when I believe that they'll be able to make that push. And right now, with this team, they're not expected to go from like 0 to hero. They're just slowly, chipping their way up, slowly getting better, every year out. And I don't know if you guys were watched any Jets preseason games, but like Sauce, he wasn't even getting tested out there. Like he was not getting tested at all. Like this guy has the potential. He has a swagger. He has the mechanics. He has everything necessary to be a top cornerback in this league. And I think year 2, year 3, he'll be one of those guys like guys, fear. So I got Jets going 5-12 this year.
For me, I have the Jets going 6-11 this year. The addition of adding Jordan Whitehead, DJ Reed, drafting Sauce Gardner, Jermaine Johnson, Garrett Wilson, and Breece Hall. They upgraded a lot from last year. So I feel like Robert Saleh is a great coach. They got the pieces. They slowly moving forward. They just hopefully Zach Wilson comes back healthy and see what they can do on the offensive side with all the weapons they have.
Yeah, the same way Chico feels about Mac Jones is like the exact same way I feel about Zach Wilson. I'm not really the biggest Zach Wilson fan. I have the New York Jets going 4-13. I feel like the New York Jets are always going to have a struggle at quarterback. I don't know when they'll ever find their quarterback, but they go through quarterbacks pretty quickly. After the rookie contract, they're already out of there. So they had a solid free agency, solid draft. I understand that they're a young team. I like their coach, Robert Saleh, but I just don't know if Zach Wilson's just going to be the guy that leads them to the promised land, and for them, the promised land is the playoffs and a positive record. So I feel like they'll move on from him in a couple of years whenever his rookie contract's done. And yeah, the New York Jets 4-13. We'll go ahead and move on to the AFC South now.
Okay, so the AFC South, I feel like from the first team, which I have here, there's a considerable drop off from the rest of the teams. I don't really rate this division. So I have the Colts here. I spoke about them in the last episode, but I'll reiterate they have a new quarterback in Matt Ryan, who to me is an upgrade from whatever Carson Wentz was giving them. We saw Carson Wentz absolutely choke to get into the playoffs, dropping games against the Raiders and Jaguars towards the end of the season. And I feel like having an experienced quarterback in Matt Ryan really helps them. We have obviously they have Jonathan Taylor. There's no discussion about him. He's an elite running back. They have a great defense, and they added Stephon Gilmore and Yannick Ngakwe. So to me, I have the Colts finishing here at 11-6. I feel like they're gonna have a really good season.
No, I totally agree. I feel like the Colts have one of the best offensive lines, if not the best offensive line. So it'll protect Matt Ryan. He didn't have that stability in Atlanta towards the last couple of years. He was always, running for his life, it seemed like. And with the talent that they have around him, Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, of course, who in my eyes is the best running back in the league, potentially tied with Christian McCaffrey. And they have the talent to obviously steamroll through this division again and go 11-6, as I feel.
Yeah, so I agree with both of you guys. I got the Colts going 11-6. I mean, the Colts are primed to win this division. I think it's already a given. With Matt Ryan, they have, acquired their new quarterback for this franchise, who is a huge upgrade from Carson Wentz. They have a wide selection of weapons at, Matt Ryan's disposal. Guys like Pittman, guys like JT, Paris Campbell, who's been lighting up training camp. And they also have an elite offensive line. And their defense as well has always been nice. I think didn't they acquire Ngakwe this offseason as
Yeah,
well?
They did.
Yeah, they did, right?
Gilmore as well.
So this defense it's already elite, and they got him coming in. So just makes you wonder like how far will they go this year? But I got them, on lock. They're winning this division for sure, but I just don't have them making a far in the playoffs.
Yeah, same as me. I got the Colts going 11-6 as well. I don't have them going far in the playoffs, but much better upgrade than Carson Wentz. They picked up Matt Ryan. They got Gilmore on the defensive side. Ngaku, they picked him up as well. I feel like the defense was already a top 5 defense. Now it's going to carry them a lot in the season. And then we got one of the best running backs in the league on the team. It's going to be the same game plan as last year, but a couple games that once choked, I don't think Matt Ryan's going to choke. So
Especially against the Jaguars.
Yeah, against the Jaguars. It's real tough. But hey, they'll make the playoffs, but I don't think they'll do anything.
Yeah, I believe the AFC South's probably the worst division in the AFC. It's pretty much a no-brainer here. Indianapolis Colts going 11-6 for all the same exact reasons you guys have them going at 11-6. Just the teams below them are just not that great, and the drop-off is pretty crazy when you look at it. But with that being said, we'll go ahead and move on to number 2.
There's not much discussion on who should win this division. But number 2, I have the Jaguars here, finishing 8-9. They brought in new head coach in Doug Peterson. In my opinion, you bring any head coach over Urban Meyer, it's an upgrade automatically. So bringing in Doug Peterson is going to be a big help to Trevor Lawrence. We're going to see a leap from him. They brought in guys like Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk. They drafted Trayvon Walker. They have 2 great running backs in Travis Etienne and James Robinson. And so to me, I feel like now they're really putting Trevor Lawrence, who to me is the best quarterback in his draft, in a situation where now he's able to really improve and thrive. So I have them finishing 8-9. I think they're going to be kind of a fun team, maybe taking off games from different teams and whatnot, but they're just not there yet. So 8-9.
Yeah, actually, I disagree. I don't see the Jaguars finishing second in this division yet. I just feel like it's too early of a young team transitioned over to a new head coach. I just feel like it's gonna be a little bit of time for everything, all the pieces come together. It won't be this year, but I feel like it would be next year. I still feel like the Titans, as bad as an offseason that people thought they had, I feel like they had. It could have been worse. They could have had injuries. They could have had, Tannehill and be injured and stuff. But they picked up a great quarterback in the draft in Willis, and I feel like he's gonna be starting by week 8 because Tannehill's he showed in the playoffs numerous times that he's just a regular season quarterback. And of course, this regular season team will finish, I believe, 8-9.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Bilas on this one. I have the Titans finishing with a record of 8-9. I mean, it just feels like this team's turning apart, like right in front of our eyes. We haven't seen them do anything to indicate that they're looking to compete this year in terms of Super Bowl playoff stuff like that. Obviously, they still have their guy Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, but I feel like Ryan Tannehill, this is a year where he definitely has that fall off. I don't know if it's if he's gonna just do horrible in games or get hurt, but just know that I feel like Ryan Tannehill's time in Tennessee is up, and Malik Willis will get a shot this year to to show this franchise that he could be the long-term answer at quarterback. I mean, if you saw, I think it was like 2 days ago in preseason, he was like darting, like he was doing
Throwing darts.
yeah, darting those balls. So I see the potential in him, but yeah, I just feel like the Jaguars is too soon. If this is next year, yeah, Jaguars will for sure, top the Titans. But as of right now, Titans still got to kind of show them respect. So I got the Titans finishing 8-9.
Yeah, I got the Titans finishing 8-9 as well. I feel like it's too early for the Jaguars to make that jump. I think they're one of the youngest teams in the league. They chemistry issues yet, so it's gonna take time for them. But going off on the Titans, man, they picked up Robert Woods on the offseason. They drafted Treylon Burke. They didn't really do much on the defensive side, but Vrabel always been a great defensive coach. He always been a great coach. But I do see them going not 8-9, but 9-8. And you got Derrick Henry. As long as you can ride Derrick Henry, he's gonna take off. Simple as that. And it's tough for defenses to adjust to a running back like that. So, yeah.
Sounds like Abdi's the only one that's high on the Jacksonville Jaguars this year, but I'm going to have to disagree with him. I'm going to agree with the rest of you guys. I have the Tennessee Titans going 8-9 this year for all the exact same reasons. They don't really have a tough schedule, but it looks like Ryan Tannehill's time in Tennessee is going to be up pretty soon. I don't believe Malik Willis will get a shot this year, but I believe he'll get a shot next year. And they're just not really looking to compete to make a playoff spot or championship run, Super Bowl run. So Tennessee Titans 8-9. Move on, number 3.
Number 3, for practically all the same reasons you guys were mentioning about the Titans and their offseason, I have them finishing 7-10 here. I feel like offensively, it's going to be a struggle for them. Ryan Tannehill, we already see him on a downhill, and Malik Willis, to me, is just not there yet in terms of being their starting quarterback. So I feel like they're going to have an issue offensively. Of course, they have a guy in Derrick Henry who is as elite as it gets, but still, when you have Ryan Tannehill, who to me is closer to a game manager at this point in his career, is just not going to do it offensively. Defensively, they remained quite intact, but I just don't see them being in that situation offensively where they're able to really compete with a team like Jacksonville. And I feel like Jacksonville offensively will be a better team than they are. So I have them 7-10.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just feel like Jacksonville still isn't ready yet. Trevor Lawrence is a hell of a quarterback. I love him. I feel like he's better of the crop of these young guys, levels above him. The Mac Jones and Tua's and Justin Fields and Jalen Hurts. I feel like he just needs time to develop and just basically get more games in, more seasons under his belt. And I'd say probably within a year or two, you could see this team at the top of the division. You never know. And I have them actually being third in this division this year, finishing with a record of 7-10.
Good shout. So I have the same team. I have the Jaguars finishing third in the division with a record of 6-11. I mean, after everything that happened last year in Jacksonville, I just don't think it's fair for Trevor Lawrence to be critiqued or evaluated right now, because what was going on in that locker room was out of control. Like it was like out of a movie or something. But furthermore, like if you looking forward to this upcoming season, the Jacksonville Jaguars done one heck of a job in surrounding Trevor Lawrence with pieces, guys like Christian Kirk, who obviously broke the market this year. Mark Ingram was it from the Giants?
Evan
Ingram, my fault. Zay Jones was an underrated pickup from the Raiders. I mean, and Travis Etienne is back from his injury, and having a pass catching running back is always a good thing to have. So with all these surrounded pieces, I feel like they're still young. But obviously a year or two from now, like I wouldn't be surprised if they were on top of this division. So I got the Jags finishing third in this division.
Yeah, I got the Jags finishing third as well. I got them going 7-10. Very young team they have. Very young team. Great offense. I love Trevor Lawrence. They picked up Christian Kirk. They got Travis Etienne. They still have James Robinson. They have Ingram, and they have a young O-line. It's just very young team. It's going to take them a while to get used to each other, playing with each other, and to get to that comfort level to move forward to be a playoff team. Doug Peterson's a very good coach, so they picked up a great coach in the offseason, much better than what they had last year with Urban Meyer. So 7-10 for them.
I have the Jacksonville Jaguars going 6-11 this year. They have a pretty easy schedule. They worked on their offense. They worked on their defense. Year 2, Trevor Lawrence, we might see some like Tua and Mac Jones for sure, but I'm just not too sure if he'll be there for too long. I know he's their guy, but Jacksonville is pretty similar to the New York Jets. They've always struggled with trying to land a star quarterback and the quarterback that's going to lead him to the promised land. But if there's any guy that can do it, it's Trevor Lawrence. So Jacksonville Jaguars 6-11. I think this next one's pretty obvious. You know, number 4. Go ahead and get into it.
Yeah, I think this team is probably at the lowest projection for win total in the league this year, alongside the Chicago Bears. I have the Texans here. Uh, I do like the fact that they have a team that they. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like this team had a great draft. They drafted about, and of course that came from the Deshaun Watson trade, but they drafted about 4 different positions. They brought in a lot of young talent, and to me, I feel like they have a direction where they want to go. Having just got rid of Deshaun Watson, they have a young, promising quarterback in Davis Mills, and overall, they just don't have the talent. But I feel like they're heading in a direction where they see, okay, we want to build around this Davis Mills guy, and I have them finishing 4-13.
Yeah, this team might be one of the worst franchises in the NFL. They just have no sense of direction. They get talent. They get the Andre Johnsons, the Deshaun Watsons, these players that are actually, Pro Bowl caliber players, all pro caliber players, and they just, just walks out or they waste their careers. So this team is finishing last in their division as well. So I have them finishing with a record of 2-15.
Yeah. So I also had the Texans finishing with a record of 4-13. I mean, the Houston Texans, they're the team where, like on Madden, I like to, franchise rebuild and try to get that team better my way. Because obviously they're struggling, but there's no doubt about that. They're in a rebuild phase in real life as well. I won't beat down on this team too bad. I'll just say some good things about them. I do see some positives in Davis Mills. I see some flashes. I see some potential in them. They also had one heck of a draft, I'd say, bringing up Derek Stingley, Kenyon Green, offensive line, and obviously I think it was a safety, Jalen Petrie, I think that was his name. So they had some amazing, and Damian Pierce as well. They have their running back one for the future. So this team doesn't have like an ounce of competing this year. But don't be surprised, like maybe 3-4 years from now. It's a long time, but they have the pieces for the future. So as of right now, they're at the bottom of this division for sure.
Just to tell you, I don't think I'm gonna tune into any Texans game this year.
Oh yeah, for sure. No.
No interest whatsoever. I don't see anything what they're gonna do the next 4 to 5 years, to be honest. I don't see David Mills being a future quarterback for them. Not a future playoff quarterback. Not a them at all. There's nothing on the offense that shows that, hey, they're moving in a direction where they can win games. So 2-13, 2-15, high draft pick next year. Hopefully they get a nice quarterback. Let's see what can happen.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about this team. I believe this team's the worst team in the NFL. They're going to have the number 1 overall pick next year. They're going to go 2-15. They drafted Stingley in this last draft, but the one guy that I'm actually pretty happy that they drafted is John Michie, wide receiver at Alabama. Unfortunately, he's gonna miss this season due to the fact that he has leukemia. So prayers up to him. But that's one guy that I think he's gonna take off in their offense for sure if they're just able to get him a quarterback in next year's draft. I believe he's very talented. I was watching him last year with Jameson Williams.
I do believe he's better than Jameson Williams when healthy.
I believe he's very talented, man. So, but hopefully when he comes back next year, he's able to showcase his talents in front of the league. But this year they're going to struggle a lot. End up with that number 1 overall pick. So Houston Texans 2-15. I think it's time to move on to a little bit more competitive division, and the next division is the AFC North.
Yeah, this is a dogfight of a division. We know that, but I have the Bengals finishing number 1 in this division. We saw that they had a Super Bowl run, but the biggest issue that they addressed this offseason to me was the offensive line. They allowed an NFL record of sacks in the playoffs. And so to me, they made it a priority to protect their quarterback. So they upgraded in that category. And to me, you have that in an elite wide receiver tandem in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and a great running back in Joe Mixon. And to me, a big part of what the Bengals is being overlooked on is their defense. Joe Burrow only threw 5 touchdowns through 4 games in the playoffs last year. So that's about almost like a touchdown a game. And the reason why they're still able to be competitive in those games was their defense. They held Patrick Mahomes scoreless in the second half of that Chiefs game. So their defense to me is as elite as it gets, and so I have them finishing 11-6 in this division.
Yeah, as much as it pains me to say this, I feel like the Bengals are a crop above the rest of the division teams for sure. And Abdi hit it right on the nose. Their defense, coupled with their explosive offense, is absolutely one of the best teams in the AFC. And actually, they showcased that in the playoffs. Cheeto, the hometown, San Jose boy. Shout out San Jose real quick.
San Jose. Outside.
They have the talent on defense. They have the talent. Von Bell, all these guys. Jesse Bates, who's one of the best defensive safeties I feel like in the league. Very underrated. So this team has all the tools to be even more successful this year. And I have them finishing 11-6.
Yeah, great points from you and Abdi both. I also have the Bengals winning the division with a record of 12-5. I mean, this team was legit like maybe 2-3 seconds away from making that play and winning the Super Bowl. And obviously, the main issue was the offensive line, breaking up last year. So they made it a priority to go in this offseason, pick up some offensive line weapons. So guys like remember Lael Collins as well. They put him, Alex Kappa, and Ted. So they brought in some key pieces to protect Joe Burrow. Obviously, they have one of the hottest offensive weapons in the league. Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and those guys, Tyler Boyd as well. Their offense is there. It's just protecting the quarterback and giving him time to make those plays. So if you protect your quarterback, he has the time to make those plays. I don't see a reason why they don't make another push in this playoffs as well. So I got the Bengals finishing 12-5.
For me as well, I got the Bengals finishing 12-5. Been a big Joe Burrow fan since college. Even y'all, we've supported the guy since his first year in Clemson, man. LSU, not Clemson. I'm tripping. So yeah, I got them going 12-5 this year. The main thing last year, their offensive line was ranked, I think, 23rd or 24th in the league. They upgraded big time. They picked up a couple pieces, and that should help them go either make that Super Bowl run again or either win it and come back to that same spot again. They have a phenomenal young team, phenomenal offense, and their defense. If you look at it, the last 7.5 weeks of the season and going into playoffs, they're a top 4, top 5 defense. So good things for them in the future.
Yeah, to piggyback off of what Big H said, I'm a huge Joe Burrow fan. I was watching his game against Clemson during his last year. He tore that team up apart. But I have the Bengals finishing 11-6. They have a third toughest schedule in the NFL this year. Of course, they addressed the O-line issues and they re-signed Jesse Bates to that franchise tag. But the one thing that I liked was the fact that they drafted safety Daxton Hill out of Michigan. I'm hearing very good things about him in this preseason, in this training camp run that they're on right now. But the only question mark that I have for this team is the defense. Last year, the reason why their run was so special is not because of their offense. It was more because of their defense. They got hot at the right time. So can they stay consistent? I'm not too entirely sure. We're just going to have to wait and see this upcoming year. But they have the talent on that side. They have the talent on offense. And I just feel like if Joe Burrow had a little bit of help on the offensive line last year, they're Super Bowl champs. And I believe this is the only team that's going to be competing in the AFC alongside the Buffalo Bills. So Cincinnati Bengals 11-6. We'll go ahead and move on to number 2.
Number 2, I have my favorite quarterback finishing here. To me, finally having his team healthy is going to be a reason why they finished 10-7. I have the Ravens. We're going to see a leap from Rashad Bateman. We're going to see a healthy Ravens defense. We remember that offseason where they were decimated, injuries on top of injuries. The running backs are finally back as well. And you have a guy in Lamar Jackson who, to me, when you have him playing, that instantly elevates your offense. Last year, before he got carted off against the Browns, I believe they're about 8-3, and they're primed to win that division. And so, to me, when you have him healthy back and you have the entire team in a correct situation, there's no question in my mind they're going to finish 10-7.
No comment on that team. I'm going to talk about my team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, finishing second in the division. We had probably one of our worst years after starting off hot, and still somehow made sure that we get in to the playoffs. And Mike Tomlin just does that. He's a winner, just a bona fide winner. Injuries that came about, we had TJ Watt that played about 13-14 games and still finished with the sack leader. So we have talent, we have Minka, we have so many players that are just great positional players. Pickens was a great pickup in the draft as well. So we have positional players to compete in this division, I feel like. And we have the quarterback play now, hopefully that can, just keep us afloat. We were not asking for too much from either Pickett or what do you call it, Trubisky, whoever maybe the starter that's announced. My sources tell me it's going to be Trubisky, but we're going to finish second in this division, guarantee it. And with a record of 10 and 7.
That's very bold in my opinion.
Yeah. It's not bold at all, man. You have your Vikings winning the division, man. At least I'm being a realist.
That's very bold right now. You're throwing a rookie quarterback and Trubisky into the fire. Think you can be better than Lamar Jackson in the Ravens?
Our defense, though. I mean, we
have a great defense for sure.
I mean, in my opinion, the AFC North entirely it's built on defense. But the differentiator, look at the Bengals. They have a great defense. Ravens as well. You guys, obviously, we don't have to talk about the Steelers' elite defense. The Browns as well. But what separates these teams is having a quarterback and literally having an offense.
Ravens don't have a quarterback. They have a running back. They have a running back. They don't have a quarterback. Don't say that. Okay.
Why were they 8-3?
Don't say that.
Why were they 8-3 before he got carded last?
If you think
no.
If you think they have a running back as a quarterback, right?
Yes.
The Steelers employ truck drivers as quarterbacks.
Yeah.
That's the level of quarterback.
If he's a running back,
that's the level of quarterback.
I'm not gonna deny it. We employ McDonald's managers right now, but
Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett battle for quarterback is literally the worst situation to be. In my opinion, that's similar to Chico and his quarterback situation with Geno Smith and Drew Lock.
Wait, okay. That's too far.
Your quarterback situation going on over there.
Yo, because you're down here with me, bro. You mean?
Go ahead and move on to Chico.
Yeah, you guys hear me? I'm good.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, for sure. Yeah, it's still crazy that Bila said guarantee it though, so it's insane. But moving forward, I have the Ravens finishing second in this division with a record of 10-7. Obviously they're one of the most exciting teams to watch in this league in the NFL. Obviously there's always something creeping up, plotting, ready to happen whenever Lamar has the ball. He's always explosive with the ball. But they just got hit with the injury bug at the wrong time. The season didn't start. They lost Marcus Peters. They lost all three of the running backs. They lost many other pieces I can't name right now.
Marlon Humphrey as well.
Yeah. What's the linebacker too?
They lost a bunch of pieces.
They lost 4 or 5 key players on defense and just
literally at the worst time possible as well.
Yeah. So the fact that obviously with those injuries, with those big key injuries, they weren't meant to compete, but they were still going out there and battling, winning ball games. They had one hell of a start, through the season until Lamar got hurt and Tyler Huntley came in, stuff like that. But besides that, moving forward to the season, I have huge expectations for this team. They have all their guys back. I think that, I'm pretty sure, everybody knows that Lamar Jackson has been getting disrespected lately. And I think that, this year he silenced a lot of people. Essentially he's playing for a contract as well. So that's another a key incentive, another motivation to go out there, dominate and be that 2018 player he was before, So obviously, Mark Andrews is there, Rashad Bateman, who I have huge love for. I think this team makes big moves, but I haven't finished second, not first. So I got the Ravens.
Yeah, I have the Ravens finishing second as well. So I got them going 11-6. I feel like they're gonna battle out the division with the Bengals, especially with the team coming in healthy, a nice defense, everybody back healthy on the defense, and you got the unanimous MVP a couple years ago, Lamar Jackson, the healthy O-line, one of the best offensive O-line that he has right now, great running back core, and people sleep on Mark Andrews, man. That's a top 2 tight end in the league.
Oh, he's elite.
He's elite. Coming off a year of 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns, and your starting quarterback only played 11 games, he's an elite tight end. So I feel like they got him. Bateman's gonna have to take a step up. They can make.
I think they got that safety Marcus Williams as well, right?
Did they pick up Marcus Williams from the safety?
I'm pretty sure they got in this.
I believe so. They did.
Yeah, you got Marcus.
Oh yeah, so you got Humphrey back. You got picked up Marcus Williams. You got Marcus Peters back. J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. I feel like it's to the moon. They're gonna fight a lot of teams for that. It's gonna be a tough playoff competition for them, but they're gonna make some noise for sure.
Definitely.
I'm gonna go ahead and give the Baltimore Ravens a record of 11-6. Like Big H mentioned, they are going to be competing with the Bengals to win this division. But that's only because that they have an easier schedule than them. I just feel like the Bengals are way more better than this team. And the Ravens, yes, you could talk about their defense and how they were decimated last year. And, going into this year, they're healthy. The Bengals have always been, not the Bengals, the Ravens, I'm sorry. The Ravens have always been good on that side of the ball defensively. I just feel like there's a lot of question marks on their offense. Their offense cannot keep up with the Bengals. And their offense is like very run heavy, more play action. It looks like they don't really trust Lamar as a quarterback because they're not really unleashing him to the best of his abilities. But, it's either he's not that good or they're holding him back. We just don't know yet. I'm just going to lean on the side that he's not that good. I do believe
it's definitely the latter. They're holding him back.
I do believe he's a bit overrated because last year, even though his defense was hurt, him offensively, he wasn't even that great. I believe he only threw 16 touchdowns and had 12 interceptions in the 12 games that he played last year. So
11.
He was very good in the underlying stats, in my opinion. When you look up in the underlying stats,
He didn't have a fantastic year the first 11 games last year until he got hurt. It wasn't really that good, but to say that missing a lot of your offensive pieces is tough. You're playing with
and
Devontae.
he himself was playing.
You were signing Devontae Freeman. Like we're going back to 2016. We're picking up.
What was it? Devontae Freeman and Latavius
Murray as running.
Is this a retirement home? Latavius Murray, Le'Veon Bell, and Devontae Freeman in your backfield situation.
And we're not going to talk about the amount of times Marquise Brown dropped the ball. Like, especially even that Lions game. That game should have been a blowout. He should have had 200 yards and 3 or 4 touchdowns, but wide open 80-yard drop, 60-yard pass drop, 50-yard pass drop. It's tough.
I mean, at the end of the day, though, they're just doing what works for their offense. That's why they brought in guys like Devontae Freeman, guys like Latavius Murray after guys like J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards went down, because that's their offense. They're a run-first team, and they play action out of that. So if Lamar Jackson was a good pocket passer, like you guys are claiming, I believe the Ravens would tweak their offense in order for him to showcase that skill set he has. But
that's not correct, though. This is the Ravens' identity for even before Lamar Jackson came. They've always been a run.
They know the limitations. That's
no,
all.
but that would make sense. That would make sense if they had a different. That would make sense if they had a different offensive philosophy before Lamar Jackson came. But even before Lamar Jackson, they've always been a run-heavy, great defense team. That's always been the Ravens.
Always.
Willie Snead. If Willie Snead mentioned this, right, that their offensive. There's a reason why wide receivers don't come to the Baltimore Ravens, because their offensive philosophy restricts wide receivers. And he mentioned that they're holding back Lamar Jackson. Marquise Brown, we've seen how he's sending shots towards the Ravens, right? It's not because of Lamar Jackson, it's because of the offensive philosophy. A lot of Ravens fans will tell you that they criticize Greg Roman in terms of his offense. If they feel like he's holding back Lamar Jackson, and in my opinion, that's true.
The last 3 years he's been criticized.
Every Ravens fan, like, I don't know if you guys remember when the Ravens played the Dolphins. That was probably one of the worst games I've watched from the Ravens, from a Ravens fan like perspective. If I was a Ravens fan, I'd be absolutely heated, because they simply could not adjust to what the Dolphins were doing, and that was all on Greg Roman. And again, that's because of their philosophy. They believe that's what we're gonna play.
I have a question. Why did Lamar complete 33% of his passes for yards more than 20 yards last year then?
Again, it's
what is it? What? No, you're making an excuse for this.
It's not an excuse.
I'm talking about the player.
He was under pressure for majority. Okay, then again, I can literally point out to Josh Allen struggling in deep balls last season.
But he averaged 37 attempts a game, though.
What are you gonna say about Josh Allen struggling in deep?
Why is it that he completed 33% of his passes on?
Josh Allen is in a better situation though. If there's a reason why, there's no reason why Josh Allen should be throwing 54% on his deep balls. He should be struggling on his deep ball compared to an average quarterback.
Oh, 54 versus 33. That's
for a guy that's under
4% to 33.
For a guy that was under constant pressure and with a lack of wide receiver options.
Completing half of your passes versus
one guy is Stephon Diggs, the other guy is Marquise Brown. Enough said.
No, okay. This is for a guy, man. That's all I'm hearing. That's all I'm hearing at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, that's what's going to separate the Ravens from the Bengals. It's not on the defensive side. It's going to be on the offensive side. But I do believe they'll battle it out. And, of course, I have them going number 2 and the Bengals at 1. But I'll go ahead and close it out right there. I don't want to say too much about the Ravens. But we'll go ahead and move on to number 3.
You got a couple Lamar haters in here.
It's not haters. It's justified.
I wouldn't say haters. I would just say like realists, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't mean that realist.
My man.
It's not realist.
My man.
You have an unanimous MVP, by the way. Let's put some respect on his name. But number 3, I have the Steelers finishing here at 9-8. They have an elite defense. We know that. But again, the lack of quarterback play. I don't care how you can justify it. Mitch Trubisky is not a starting quarterback. He is a journeyman. Kenny Pickett, does he have potential? I'm not quite sure. I did see some preseason, some potential there, but I did see a lot of mishaps in training camp, a lot of picks thrown. And so to me, when you have great skill positions, right, in Deontay Johnson and Najee Harris and Claypool, you're in a prime position, but a complete lack of quarterback play. These last two teams, the Steelers and Browns, the reasons why I have them finishing at the bottom of this division is because one, Deshaun Watson, his situation, we don't know about that. And two, the Steelers, Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett, it's a terrible, like I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy to have a quarterback competition like that. Like I mentioned, it's like Geno Smith versus Drew Lock. You're not really trying to like watch that. And so to me, the Steelers, if they brought back Ben Roethlisberger, it would be the same exact scenario.
Wow. Ben Roethlisberger that couldn't throw more than 10 yards, right?
I'm not sure Mr. Trubisky can even throw 10 yards accurately.
No. It's ridiculous. It's laughable that you even mentioned that training camp mishaps for Kenny Pickett. It's training camp for a reason. It's called training. But there's a quarterback that can't throw, more than 20 yards in the AFC, and he's supposedly one of the best quarterbacks.
But, I mean, if you want unanimous MVP, he definitely is.
But moving on. I have the Ravens finishing third in this division. They can have all these skill positions. They can have Kyle Hamilton that they picked up, but at the end of the day, they're our little brother. They're our little brother in the division. We all majority of the seasons we either split with them if they at best, or we win both outright. And we have the skill position players. I agree. Our quarterback position will be an issue, but I just feel like the quarterback issue with the Ravens is far more alarming than ours. Far more alarming.
Wait, so you believe a quarterback situation? You believe a situation with the Ravens having Lamar Jackson as quarterback is more alarming than the Steelers starting Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett.
I have.
That's not even a real take.
Listen,
that's not even a real take.
Not, okay, obviously the model didn't work. The playoffs, once they make it to the playoffs, the Ravens are one and done. The model doesn't work. Okay, the run first offense will not work.
So you're saying it's more.
So you're basing it off of two. You're basing it off of two playoff years that have been.
Hear me out.
2 years.
It's not the early 2010s anymore. Colin Kaepernick, all those things, it's done. That model it crashed and burned.
That doesn't make any sense because that's more of a recent model, if anything. You just witnessed a guy that couldn't get out the pocket for 10 years. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
if anything, that's the old model.
I will take a quarterback that sits in the pocket and makes mistakes over a quarterback that cannot throw in a pocket.
That doesn't make any sense.
Take that any day.
I want a quarterback that's going to make the best play possible, whether he throws it or he runs it. I don't care about what he's able to. It makes no sense. It makes no sense that you're mentioning playoffs as a reason for irregular.
There's a reason why he didn't get paid.
Wait, so regular? Are you scared?
One at a time, guys. One at a time.
Hear me out. I have a question. Why are all his peers getting paid big money contracts and he is? What was obviously the organization
Wait, so you don't think he's gonna get paid?
I don't think he's gonna get paid the market value that other quarterbacks like Kyler Murray and stuff.
He definitely is. If anything,
I think he gets paid more than Kyler.
He's gonna get paid more than them. Yes, 100%. 100%.
He's gonna be the most paid.
What happens when
he might be the most paid? If anything,
when they don't make the playoffs this year?
They are going to make.
They're making the playoffs.
No. I'm asking you, what happens hypothetically? Does Lamar get paid? Does Lamar get paid?
He still gets paid.
He still gets paid.
He still gets paid.
What is he out the league or something?
Hey, time out. Kyler Murray didn't make the playoffs last year, right?
But
he did.
They have trust in that. They have trust
against the Rams.
He
did.
He still got paid though. They have trust.
They have trust in them. They obviously showed that.
He still got paid, but they got.
No, again, you guys are missing the biggest point here.
No,
he's mentioning. Listen, he's mentioning playoffs as a reason in a regular season discussion versus a guy that won unanimous MVP and another team that has Mitch Trubisky as their quarterback. That it's not even in the same realm.
Let's move on. I think it's been elongated, but I believe the Ravens are going to finish third in the division.
You cannot say.
Don't mention an issue. Ravens do not. The Ravens do not have a quarterback issue. I'll tell you that right now. They absolutely do not have a quarterback issue.
If they don't have an issue, they have a concern, and they know that.
They have none.
So BLS, what record are you going to give the Ravens?
I have them finishing at 9-8.
Okay, move on to Chico.
Yeah. So at third, I have the Steelers finishing with a record of 8-9. I mean, the Steelers haven't had a losing season since Mike Tomlin's been there, right?
And
I
we'll
think
have
that's
him-
I think that's all about to change this year. I mean, obviously they have, one heck of a running back option, Najee Harris. They have Deontay Johnson, Claypool, and who's that rookie you guys just drafted this year?
George Pickens.
George Pickens.
Yeah, NFL young boy. So they have some weapons on the offensive side, and obviously they have one amazing defense as well. But choosing from Rudolph, Trubisky, and Pickle, that's kind of like that's a major mid-off. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's a major
harassment versus harassment.
Yeah.
Harassment.
Last episode, the way Beals talked about the Seahawks quarterback room, like,
Come on,
bro,
man.
come on, bro. Like,
You
we're in the same
you
boat.
have Kenny Pickle, Mason Rudolph, and Trubisky, bro. Like,
Amen.
look at
Chico
it.
didn't forget.
I didn't forget, bro.
Look at it. Literally, look at it.
That's the
Look at it.
craziest mid-off, Beals. Like, we're craziest mid-off.
Who's the Browns
Yeah.
backup quarterback right now?
You said what?
The Browns.
It's Brissett, Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm taking Brissett over the freaking Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh no, 100%.
Your quarterback Drew Lock, man. You can't just
100%. Mason Rudolph, man. We seen what happened to that guy last year. Don't forget.
No, man, it's
He's
bad,
our
bro.
third-string quarterback. That's a good thing. He's it.
I mean, yeah. So just like this team won't figure it out until obviously that quarterback situation is fixed. I don't think any of those three guys have the minerals or the potential to take that next step and be the long-term answer at quarterback. But yeah, so I got the Steelers finishing 8-9 and first losing season for Mike Tomlin as well.
I got the Steelers actually finishing 9-8. I do think with Trubisky as a starting quarterback, I feel like Tomlin can put him as a game manager type quarterback, like he was when the Bears went to the playoffs. Who was his coach with Trubisky that year?
I think it might have been Matt
It was
Nagy.
Matt Nagy, right?
Matt Nagy, yeah.
Matt
He
Nagy.
worked with Alex Smith. He made Trubisky like a great game manager quarterback. He made the playoffs with him. I feel like with the team they have, Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson, Claypool, Pat. I don't want to mess up his name, BLS. What's the
Freiermuth.
Freiermuth? Fire. I'm gonna call him Firemouth. Whatever. Firemouth. You feel me? And they have an elite defense, so I do feel like they're gonna finish 9-8. But
Don't forget, we picked up Brian Flores as well. He's elite.
Brian Flores is the Miami Dolphins coach, right?
Miami
Yes.
Dolphins coach. He's
Yeah.
our defensive coordinator
Well,
now.
I can say 9-8 or 10-7 because depending with the coaching staff, especially with Tomlin, dogfight. Every single game is a dogfight. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to disagree with all you guys. I had the Cleveland Browns here at 8-9. It was pretty much a coin flip for me between them and the Steelers for number 3, but I just feel like I trust Jacoby Brissett a lot more than I do Mitchell Trubisky, Mason Rudolph, and Kenny Pickett.
That's not crazy to say.
Yeah,
That
it's
is
not
outlandish.
it's
That is
not
outlandish.
extreme to say.
It is. You guys are just flat out.
I feel
hating.
like Jacoby Brissett did a pretty decent job with the Dolphins.
I'm saying, and he did a pretty decent job with the
Yeah.
Patriots too.
Yeah.
Which
And
kind of
the
leads
Colts.
which leads me to my point.
You
He's,
forget, he was nice.
Oh
on
yeah, the Colts too.
I
Yeah.
forget
Those are the
that.
Colts. What the?
yeah,
What
he
you
was
saying,
solid on the Colts and he was solid on the Dolphins. I think he's going to be solid enough for them, to win a few games while Deshaun Watson's suspended.
But it's 11 games though. That's a lot. I ain't gonna lie.
11 games with a backup
That's a
quarterback.
lot.
In the beginning of the season, though, they have a pretty easy schedule. It just
Hey.
it's after that first
It's-
6 games where they play
They're
tough
gonna,
teams.
they're
like
gonna, they're gonna
Bengals,
run the ball heavy.
Dolphins.
They're gonna run the ball heavy with Nick
I
Chubb.
believe with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in that backfield, they're just going to rely heavily on them. They also added Amari Cooper, who I think is going to be a great weapon for Deshaun Watson once he comes back from suspension. So if there's anybody that can just hold the fort until Deshaun Watson gets back, it's Jacoby Brissett, and they have a really good defense with Myles Garrett leading the way on that end of the field. So if they're just able to hold the fort, and once Deshaun Watson comes back, because I believe he's a top 3 quarterback in this league, but we'll get into that maybe at a later date. They'll be able to finish with a record of 8-9. Deshaun Watson will end the year. He'll get the rest off him and lead him to a few more wins, but they're just not going to make the playoffs, of course, because he's not going to be playing the full season. But
Did you say Deshaun Watson top 3?
I do have Deshaun Watson as the top 3 quarterback in this league when he's playing. But it sounds like a bold take, but we can get into that a little bit later. We'll go ahead and move on to number 4.
Number 4, you aren't lying. It was kind of a coin toss for me. I just have them one loss less than the Steelers, 8-9, and the biggest reason was Deshaun Watson's case. Losing him for 11 games does hurt, and Jacoby Brissett can keep them afloat for a bit, but I feel like it's just not enough to where. And I feel like the schedule once Deshaun Watson comes back, he has some very tough teams to play. I believe he plays the Ravens like twice. He has the Bengals, and then I think the Bills are also in the mix somewhere there. So he has some tough games when he comes back. But that team is like in a situation where they have an elite offensive line. They have a great running back tandem in Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. So they're going to rely heavily on that. And they have a pretty damn good defense. So I have them finishing 8-9. That's really just because of that quarterback situation that they got going on with Deshaun Watson out for 11 games.
For starters, I do not like Deshaun Watson. I do not like the Cleveland Browns organization. Probably hate him more than the Ravens organization now, just because solely based off of Deshaun Watson's allegations that were found to be true. Obviously, if he was suspended, they're just that organization has questionable characters. Kareem Hunt, people like Myles Garrett, who just swung a helmet mid mid game. So I just do not like this franchise. They're full of people that are unprofessional. See, keep it sweet. I want to use other words, but I just want to keep it professional. I want to keep it calm in here. And I just have them finishing at the bottom of the division. I just don't feel like 11 games with a backup will be, something that you can sustain. And I have them finishing at the bottom of the division at 8-9.
Yeah, so for me as well, I have the Browns finishing at the bottom of this division with a record of 8-9. I mean, this team has, one scary defense, and that defense will, obviously win them some ball games, but I just don't think that having Jacoby Brissett as your quarterback for 11 games or 10 games is going to be enough to keep you afloat, I'd say. Obviously, they have one hell of an offensive line, running back weapons and upcoming receivers, and Amari Cooper's there as well. But Jacoby Brissett, I don't think he has what it takes to like win you those tight ball games and stuff like that. But obviously, once Deshaun Watson gets it back, I don't think he's gonna be a little rusty. I don't think he'll be prepared to win or win you some ball games this year. I feel like maybe next year. But as of right now, Jacoby Brissett as your quarterback for 10 games isn't really the move right now. So I got the Browns finishing last in this division, the record of 8-9.
Yeah, to top it off, I do have the Browns finishing 7-10, last in the division. Like Chico said, Brissett, 10 games in a season is not going to help much. Although they like the first 5 to 6 games they do have easy, but it's going to be tough for them. It's going to be tough. And Watson coming back, having played for almost a year and a half. How much games? Like about to be 28 games that he missed so far. It's a lot of games. It's going to take time for him to get in rhythm. He's a great quarterback, but it's going to take time for him to get back to that football shape, football rhythm. All I see is Nick Chubb carrying this team, and then that elite defense with Denzel Ward. I do rate him highly, and Myles Garrett carrying that defense. They're going to be phenomenal on the defensive end. The offense, I don't see much with Brissett. I don't see Cooper doing much either, so it's going to be tough for them.
At number 4, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers going 7-10. They just have a lot of question marks at quarterback, and their O-line is pretty terrible. I believe their game plan this year is to run Najee Harris into the ground. But their defense is always solid. It's always has been, always will be. And a highlight for them this year will be George Pickens and his development and how he does. I do believe they have weapons. Him and Deontay Johnson, there's a pretty good duo right there. They have a solid tight end. But unfortunately, this is going to be the first year for Mike Tomlin where he has a losing season. And I hate it had to be him. Now it's time to move on to a more competitive division, even more competitive than the AFC North, the AFC West. Number 1, who do we got?
This is an absolute like bloodbath of a division. I feel like even like trying to rate these teams is a challenge, but I have the Chargers finishing 12-5 here. They addressed the biggest issue, which was defensively. They were able to get in shootouts with team, but they just couldn't keep up on the defensive side. So they went out and got Khalil Mack. They got J.C. Jackson. And then offensively, they drafted O-linemen. And then we're going to obviously see a leap from Herbert, who is an elite young talent. And so to me, when you have guys like Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and then you also have Herbert and then Austin Eckler, the offense was going to be elite for sure. And then now the defense, they went out and got pieces. So they're going to be solid on that end. So I have them finishing 12-5.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. You hit it right on the head. I have the Chargers being the top of the division, top to bottom. I feel like they're one of the most, complete teams in the NFL. Picking up Khalil Mack, of course, as you mentioned, J.C. Jackson and Joey Bosa. He's one of the best D linemen in the league for me. He's right up there with the Aaron Donalds, the TJ Watts of the world. So this team is complete. And this division is it's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be Game of Thrones, House Targaryen, House Chargers, House all these people just fighting it out.
House Chargers.
House Chargers and House Raiders. It's going to be just the team it's going to be bloodbaths. And I feel like every team's going to be splitting games, so you can't really whichever team you have it can definitely differentiate. So I have the Chargers finishing at the top with a record of 12 and 5.
Yeah, so I also have the Chargers winning this division with a record of 13-4. I mean, we all know that the Chargers are gonna win this division. I just love how their main focus the past couple of years since getting Herbert was, building up the offensive line by drafting was it Rashawn Slater with a first round pick in 2020 or first round, 2020, and then the following year they drafted Zion Johnson as well. So just protecting your goods, because you have one of the best quarterbacks in the league and is extremely young as well. So protecting a quarterback like that, it goes a long way. And on top of that, I just feel like Justin Herbert has been spoiled with this all these offensive weapons he has, like Mike Will, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Gerald Everett, who they just picked up this offseason. And looking back to last year, they lost a lot of games due to their defense not keeping up. And this offseason they went out and grabbed Khalil Mack, JC Jackson, so guys like that to come in and change the environment of the locker room basically. So, and I just want to give a shout out to a couple guys on that defensive end, like Asante Samuel Jr. That guy has loads of potential, and I see him being one of the best in his position. Maybe this year, maybe next year, but he's for sure gonna be one of those guys. But yeah, I got the Chargers finishing 13-4 in this division.
Yeah, same as me. I got the Chargers finishing 13-4. Just them, the defensive additions that they added, key additions, big additions, picking up J.C. Jackson, picking up Khalil Mack, having Derwin James come back healthy this year, especially missing half of the year last year. I believe James is one of the best safeties in the league, one of the best hybrid safeties in the league as well. It's gonna be that side of the ball is gonna be crazy. They got some ball hawks, they got some linebackers, and that D line is who you gonna double team on that D line? You got Bose on one side, you got Mack on one side. And then if you look at the offensive side, like the past 3 years, ever since Herbert came in the league, each year they have given him a better old line, or they have been getting better every single year. This year, I have they're one of my teams to be the Super Bowl favorite. One of the teams. You got the Bills with them, and then I have the Bengals up there, and now it's the Chargers. So those three teams for me, I feel like one of them will come out.
Yeah, I believe every team in this division, the AFC West, they will go to war with each other this upcoming season. But I agree with all of you guys. I have the Chargers going 12-5. Before I talk about Herbert and all the good things about him, I do want to say this. I know their defense costed them a lot of games last year, but there were a few games where, there was some very questionable losses. And one loss I'll definitely point out is to one of the worst teams in the league, the Houston Texans. I just feel like there's no excuse for him to lose a game like that, especially when you're trying to make the playoffs. And also that very last game against the Raiders, I know the defense didn't show up, but I feel like them and the Raiders are pretty much the same in terms of talent on paper last year. And the Raiders didn't really have a good defense last year. So I feel like they should have definitely made the playoffs over them. And to see him, begging for a tie on the sidelines, it's a bit embarrassing.
That's soft mentality right there. To ask for a tie.
Asking for a tie is kind of crazy.
Soft mentality right
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's a bit embarrassing. Of course, you want to have that dog mentality. You want to always want to go out there and get a win for your team, especially when you're trying to win and make the playoffs.
To be buddy in the division with another team you're battling that's soft mentality from top to bottom, from the coaches to the players, each one of them.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, he came up short last year, but this year I believe he won't come up short with all the acquisitions that they made on the defensive side. But now that I've bashed Herbert a little bit, I'll go ahead and say this. In year 3, I do have him as a dark horse for MVP. I do believe he's that talented enough to, go out there and put up crazy numbers and snag that award for himself. So Los Angeles Chargers going 12-5. Go ahead and move on to number 2.
Number 2, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. They lost, obviously, we know, star wide receiver Tyreek Hill. They lost Tyrann Mathieu, and they added guys like MVS and Juju Smith. But to me, just having Mahomes as your quarterback is enough of a guarantee to have 10 wins plus every season. I don't care who's around him. It could be guys from Foot Locker. Mahomes is able to work with what he has. So I have them finishing 11-6. I feel like Mahomes is enough and Andy Reid is enough of a pairing where they're able to continue to win games. This division, obviously, we have a feeling a lot of games are going to be split between each other. And so they're able to go toe to toe with the Chargers. We know that, we saw that last season. The Chargers are obviously able to keep up with them, but I have them finishing 11-6.
I'm gonna say this. I had very like long discussions with who I have that second. It's just a toss up for me between these two teams, but I just feel like this team got better substantially, while the other lost a key piece in Tyreek Hill. I just feel like the Denver Broncos have all the success to, or excuse me, they have all the tools to be successful. Now with the addition of Russell Wilson, that's the only issue that they had. They had the quarterback issue, and that guy that was holding him back, no names. He plays for the guy's team in here now. So
shots all day, huh? Okay.
Yeah, I know you see
Okay.
stuff. But basically, yeah, this team I feel like is going to finish second in the division. Their defense is elite of the elite. They have great positional players, and I just feel like they will finish second in the division with a record of 11-5.
Six.
Yeah. So sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh no, so yeah, for me as well, this was kind of a toss-up as well, but I just had to go with my guy, Russell Wilson. I had the Denver Broncos finishing second in this division with a record of 12-5. I just know this team will have immediate success because of him, Russell Wilson. They already obviously had a elite defense. They had a nice offensive line, great weapons. They were just missing that quarterback play, and Russell Wilson coming in playing at an elite level that I know he could play in. I feel like you can just slot them in and they'll just make that big jump to that next level. So no hate to the Chiefs and the Raiders below, but I just feel like Russell Wilson has finally been surrounded with key pieces because obviously you see what he done with the Seattle Seahawks with, what he had at his disposal. Now that he has all these new toys to play with and all this protection, I just feel like he's bound to explode and have an MVP type season. So I got the Broncos finishing 12-5.
I got the Broncos going 11-6, like Chico said, man. I got to rock with my guy Wilson. Keep my stock with him, you know what I'm saying?
It's love.
Yeah, love forever, you feel me? So 11-6, man. Their defense is fantastic. When they got great corners, they got great linebackers, they got great defensive line. They went, I think, 8-9 last year or 7-10?
I think they went 7-10. They struggled.
They struggled, but 7-10 is pretty fantastic when you have Drew Lock and Teddy B as your quarterbacks. And now you got an MVP caliber quarterback, a Super Bowl winning quarterback on your team. It's gonna be a great year. And you got Javonte Williams taking that next step forward. So I do see them going 11-6, being second in the division.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you there, Big H and Chico. I have the Kansas City Chiefs going 11-6 this upcoming year. They have the 5th toughest schedule in the league, but at the end of the day, it's who they have at quarterback and who they have at quarterback leading the way, and alongside their head coach. I might dislike this guy, Patrick Mahomes. I'm not really the biggest fan of Mahomes, but at the end of the day, he's one of the few quarterbacks that can get it done with any wide receiver, any group around him. I know they lost Tyreek Hill and they brought in Juju. They lost Honey Badger. They brought in Justin Reed. I just feel like Travis Kelce's going to have another crazy year. He's been crazy the past 6 years, but this year is going to be on a different level because he's like the only real weapon that, Mahomes is probably going to trust a lot. But at the end of the day, I can't go against Mahomes, even though I dislike him. So Kansas City Chiefs 11-6.
That defense is going to be one of the worst defenses this year. Trust me.
I mean, they have Mahomes who can go toe to toe in a shootout with anybody in the league. He's arguably the best quarterback.
I mean, we saw how
seen him go toe to toe last year in the season against Cincy, against the Ravens, and then you go to the playoffs, going to get toe to toe against the Bengals again, barely beating Josh Allen by a hair.
That's enough for him to beat Josh Allen to say, Patrick Mahomes can't go toe to toe with absolutely anyone. And you guys remember how much that defense was struggling midway through the season, and then they started tightening up a bit towards the end of the season. So I don't see them being at the level that they were last year for that 8-week period where they were just absolutely terrible. So I feel like there's some positive regression there. Probably gonna be better.
We'll go ahead and move on to number 3.
Let's see though.
Number 3, I have the Broncos here finishing 10-7. I feel like this is going to be one of those division, those rare cases where all 3 of these teams make the playoffs. The 4th one, obviously, I have them. I talked about them in the last episode, but we'll get to them after. But I have the Broncos number 3rd, finishing 10-7. Obviously, bringing in Russell Wilson, who to me is becoming rapidly underrated as a quarterback. We've seen what he's worked with in terms of his offensive line last year, and Pete Carroll as his head coach, which to me shouldn't even still be there at Seattle, but that's a different discussion. You have Jerry Judy and Cortland Sutton as wide receiver options, and then you obviously the elite defense bringing in Randy Gregory. And so I feel like Russell Wilson is in probably the best situation he's been in a very, very long time. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Broncos shock a lot of people and do big things in the playoffs. So I have them 10-7.
I have the Kansas City Chiefs finishing third in this division. I feel like losing Tyreek Hill, he was a mismatch, just a flat out mismatch on offense. And replacing that with, I believe, was it Valdez-Scantling and Juju? It's a dramatic drop off in talent. So of course Patrick Mahomes is going to be Patrick Mahomes. He's going to get it, and then I feel like this offense will open up now. That it's not as much as it used to be in the past, where it's deep balls to Tyreek, underneath routes to Kelsey. I feel like this offense, once there's more people, that it'll open up. But they will finish third in this division, just solely based off the other two teams' quality of both offensively and defensively, and have them finishing at 9-8.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I can't lie, especially for a guy like Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. I get losing Tyreek Hill is a big thing, but
yeah, I just feel like the two other teams are more primed to win in this division. And
I just feel like this division is going to be more close than
I could have swore the Chiefs have like one of the hardest strengths of schedule too. So, or excuse me, one of the easiest strengths of schedule. So I understand where you're saying that, but
the Chiefs actually have the 5th toughest schedule in the league.
The hardest. Yeah, I think I read my graph, and I think I need to go back to school. I think I read the graph wrong, but they have one of the hardest schedules in the league, and it's going to be rough this year, coupled with the fact that their division is rough itself. It's gonna be a rough one. So
to me, strength of schedule, I'll be honest, when it comes to elite quarterbacks, I ignore. I'll be the first one to say it.
Why is that?
When it comes to guys like Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes, whenever I hear strength of schedule, I really don't care, because I feel like they could go out and beat anybody and everybody. So when it comes to Patrick Mahomes, like say, I don't want to bet against him, especially having Andy Reid as his coach. I just don't see a situation where they get below 10 wins.
It's one game. That's a good point.
Got for his Chico.
Yeah, for sure. So finishing third in this division, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, it's well known that Patrick Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. And I mean, there were times last season where he thought he was too good and tried to do too much, causing some errors and misfortunes last season. I know you guys are all aware of that, those interceptions he threw. And that I'm gonna try.
Couple of them.
That little side.
Yeah, some of them were a bit like on the wide receiver.
Yeah, a couple of them are on the receivers.
No, that side.
I do know.
What talking about like the sidearm stuff and like the pizzazz, the extra stuff.
Yeah, like a little too extra, like
too extra.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but on top of that, like I'm gonna chuck it down the field because Tyreek Hill's down the summer blanket. It's gone. Like he doesn't have that no more. I mean, obviously he does still have some guys that can take the top off, and guys like Mecole Hardman, Marcus Scanlon, Valdez-Scantling, and also have guys that can come underneath like Travis Kelce and Juju Smith-Schuster. So obviously there's a little bit more balance on this offensive side, and obviously on the defensive end they had one underrated draft. They picked up Trent McDuffie, who I have good things to say about from UW. They also traded for Justin Reed from the Houston Texans, who was the only bright spot on that defense. So the Kansas City Chiefs made some silent moves on this offseason to balance up this offense and balance up the defense. So I just don't think, they have enough to finish the top of Broncos, finish the top of the Chargers. Maybe we don't know. Pat Mahomes might, unlock another level and, ball out. But as of right now, I got the Chiefs finishing third with a record of 10-7.
Yeah, I got the Chiefs finishing third as well as 10-7. Just the big loss of Tyreek Hill, man. That's a security blanket. Top 3 receiver playing with Mahomes. You lose that, it's tough to replace. It's tough. They picked up Juju, MVS. They have Mecole Hardman. The one thing I didn't see them adjust or try to fix is that running back situation they have. They picked up Ronald Jones. I don't think that's going to solve it. Clyde Edwards, he's really not a great running back. So they're going to have problems with the run game, and they're going to rely a lot on the pass game. So it's going to be shootouts, a lot of shootouts in a tough division where all 4 teams can make the playoffs. they're gonna have 3 out of 4 teams in the playoffs in that division. So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, number 3, I have the Denver Broncos going 10-7. I mentioned in the last episode I have them, disappointing a lot of people this year just because it's Russell Wilson's first year in a new offense. It's going to take some time for him to get familiar with the group, the coaching staff, and everybody from top to bottom. They do have a pretty easy schedule. They're kind of like in the middle of the pack, ranking 15th. They added Randy Gregory to that defense. But at the end of the day, the 2 teams that I have above them, I just believe the Chargers, they've made more moves. And the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm done betting against Mahomes. I believe that, he can get it done against anybody. And the Denver Broncos don't really scare me that much compared to the top 2 teams. So, we'll go ahead and move on to number 4 now.
Number 4, I talked about this team last week, so I won't go really extensively into them, but I have the Raiders finishing 9-8. Obviously, they picked up my boy Devontae Adams, who's the best wide receiver in the NFL. It still feels weird seeing him in black and silver, but they added him to an offense where they had Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller and a maybe a borderline top 10 quarterback in Derek Carr, according to some people, not to me though. But again, they have an offensive situation where they can be dangerous, but to me they still have bigger holes than the rest of the teams in this division. Obviously, I don't rate that defense a lot. They don't have a great secondary. The offensive line, to me, is bottom 5 in the league, and they didn't go out and really splurge in that category. So I just don't really see a situation where they're able to be just as good as the other teams. I feel like offensively, they might be able to go in shootouts with these teams, but defensively, they just won't be able to keep up.
What you got for us, BLS?
I have the Raiders finishing 4th in the division. I just feel like compared to the other 3 teams, they have probably the biggest holes, which is of course their defense. New coaching staff, new system. Of course, picking up Devontae was huge, but I just feel like there's just too many holes in this team to compete in this division, and I have them finishing 4th, record of 7-10.
Well, you said 7-10.
That's a bit
Okay.
A bit extreme. Is that the word you're looking for?
That's a bit extreme right there. I can't lie.
That is extreme, especially.
Well,
How many games did they even win last year?
They won 9. I'm pretty sure it was 9 or 10 they won last year.
Yeah.
Probably 10 actually. I think
10. It was 10 games.
Yeah, that's 7 wins is a bit extreme when you add Devontae Adams to already loaded offense.
Yeah, that's good.
100%. If you go.
Yeah, so I have the Raiders finishing last in the division. I mean, they've done so well building up this offense for a guy like Derek Carr, guys like Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs, and even bringing in Devontae Adams. But that's still not enough to compete with the other dogs in this league, this division. They have one of the worst or the horrible offensive lines in this league. Besides Chandler Jones and Mason Crosby, can you name any other needle movers on that defense?
I can't.
You can't. Yeah, it's kind of tough. So, well, all that.
Chandler Jones.
Yeah, I said Chandler Jones and Mason Crosby.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, you can't name anyone else. The thing is, I just feel bad because if they were in a different division, like they would have dominated for sure. But
Yeah.
the fact that they're in the locked and loaded AFC, but it's like tough for them to even compete. So I have them finishing 9-8 this year, finishing last in their division.
Yeah, I got them finishing 9-8 as well. It's only going to be a problem on one side of the ball. They have one of the worst defenses, especially as their cornerback group, their safety group, their middle linebackers. One of the worst rated defenses possible that they can have. They only got Chandler Jones, they got Max Crosby, but those 2 guys can only do so much for the rest of the guys on the defense. Offensively, I feel like they're going to be a top 3 to 4 offense. I like Josh McDaniels. He's a great coach. He's going to come with a different system for the offense. Do see them involving the running backs more. They got Devontae, they got Hunter Renfrow, they got Darren Waller. So 9-8 in a stacked division like that, it can go any way possible, to be honest. Any of these 4 teams can all make the playoffs, or 3 out of the 4, but we'll see.
Yeah, I have the Las Vegas Raiders going 8-9. I know Abdi mentioned a little earlier, strength of schedule, it doesn't matter for guys like Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers, and etc. But I think it matters for a guy like Derek Carr. I know they traded for Devontae Adams. I hear all that, but they still have O-line issues like Chico mentioned, and I don't really trust their defense like Chico mentioned. So for them to, you know, really be contending in this division, I think they're just going to be like, they're definitely going to be the bottom team. You know, the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Broncos, they're definitely going to get their ones in on this team. They're going to get their wins in for sure. But they're just going to have to elevate that defense in the next offseason and the next draft, because there's a lot of question marks. They don't really force a lot of turnovers. And last year they were in a lot of close games where, you know, they came out on the right side of that. I just don't think that's going to happen this year, especially with this tough division that they're in. So Las Vegas Raiders 8-9. We'll go ahead and list off our 7 teams now that are going to make the playoffs, and we'll go ahead and give an honorable mention. So kick us off, Abdi.
This is a bit tougher than the NFC. The NFC was pretty straightforward for me. This is like extremely tough, but I have the Bills, the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Bengals, the Ravens, the Broncos, and the Colts. And the one team that going to be my honorable mention that I want to squeeze in, but I just don't see it in the situation, is the Dolphins. I have them as my honorable mention. I feel like the AFC West is going to be a situation where all 3 teams make it in. I just feel like the Dolphins might not be able to make it out of their division in terms of making it the playoffs. So, yeah, BLS is all you, man.
I have the team to flop being.
What team do you have making the
team?
playoffs this
The
year?
seven- the
Your
seven
top 7
teams.
teams.
Top 7 teams? I would definitely have the Chargers, the Bengals, the Bills, the Raiders. Excuse me, not the Raiders, the Broncos. That was a Freudian slip, maybe. But and lastly, I would definitely have the Colts. So that would be my.
That's 5. You need 2 more teams.
That's it. Oh, that's 6 actually. I gave you a 6.
7 teams.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, the Steelers, of course, my Steelers. How did I forget my Steelers? And I would definitely say the third team. I think the 7th team. I think the Chiefs get in. I think the Chiefs get in as that 7th team.
Nah,
Yeah.
you need a team. You need a team from the AFC South though. When you got to pick between.
I already mentioned the team. Already mentioned the
No,
Colts.
he mentioned the Colts.
Okay.
Do you have an honorable mention?
My honorable mention would be the New England Patriots.
Fair enough.
High on them.
Chico, what you got for us?
Yeah, man. So the 7 teams I have locked and loaded. I'm gonna start with the Bills, the Dolphins, Colts, Bengals, Ravens, Chargers, Broncos, and Chiefs. I don't have an honorable mention, but I don't think 4 teams out of a division ever made it to the playoffs. Has that ever happened?
It's a pretty rare occasion.
That's
Like
fair, yeah.
you would need a situation where a bunch of your
Yeah.
teams tie and like they split
Yeah.
games and
Exactly, because I have, besides the Colts, I have nobody from the AFC South. AFC North, I have the Bengals and Ravens. I don't have Broncos. I don't have the Browns or Steelers making it. AFC East, I don't have the Jets or the Patriots making it. So it all comes down to the Raiders. So I guess that'll be my honorable mention.
Okay.
For me, I have the Bills, the Colts. I have Baltimore. I have Cincy, Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos. So I got 3 teams coming out of that AFC West, man. It's a stacked division. So
Any honorable
an
mentions?
honorable mention is going to be Miami. I feel like they might, if they can, win that division, or not win the division, but get to 11 wins in that division, they might get ahead of one of those AFC West teams.
Yeah, my list is pretty similar to Big H and Abdi's. Bills, Bengals, Chargers, Chiefs, Ravens, Broncos, Colts, and then my honorable mention will be the Miami Dolphins. I just don't feel like it'll be their year this year. I believe next year, when they develop Tua a little bit more and he gets more familiar with the new offense with the new head coach and Tyreek Hill and everybody, they'll be able to make the playoffs. So now that we've covered our AFC record and standing predictions, I know that I mentioned earlier in this episode that we're going to discuss a player that we predict might break out this year. We're going to go ahead and hold off on that until the next episode. And we're going to jump right into the little game that we have for you guys today: overrated, underrated, and properly rated for the running backs and wide receiver position. And to kick things off, I'll go ahead and mention Ezekiel Elliott. What are you guys' thoughts on him?
overrated.
Coming to the season, I have him underrated.
Properly rated.
I have him underrated as well. BLS?
I have them underrated.
Abdi, I want to hear your thoughts on that though. Overrated?
I have this guy overrated because I feel like Zeke, after his first 3 seasons in the NFL, he's been on somewhat of a downhill trajectory, in my opinion. We saw last year in terms of his yards per carry, his yards per game, overall, in terms of his production, really took a hit, and some may say because of injury, but in my opinion, he just overall looks less athletically than he was in his previous years. But now it just feels like a guy like Tony Pollard comes in and it's just like it's way more explosive. So I have Zeke as overrated. A lot of people in their minds, well, probably to Cowboys fans, probably still think he's like a top 7 running back, which he absolutely he's not.
I'll go ahead and speak for the group of people that have him as underrated. I think it's very unfair for the slander that he's getting. I know in 2021 he played injured, and he finished with 1,000 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns. And in 2020 we can't really count that season because he didn't have a quarterback. So let's go ahead and go into a deep dive into those other 3 years, 2019, 2016. Those last 4 years. So in 2019 he had 1,300 rushing yards and 12 touchdowns. He finished top 4 in rushing. And then we'll go ahead and say in 2016 he won the rushing title. Finished with 1,600 yards and 15 touchdowns. That was his breakout season, his rookie year. In 2018, during his the year he came back from suspension, he finished with 1,434 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns. But those are his 2 rushing titles. Let me get into 2017, which I believe is a bit, questionable. He played 10 games. He got suspended. We get that. He finished with 242 rushing attempts and 983 rushing yards. The rushing title winner that year, Kareem Hunt, played 16 games. He finished with 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns on 272 rushing attempts. So what those numbers tell me is that if Ezekiel Elliott plays the full season or even 15 games, he's going to be a back-to-back rushing title winner. There's just no reason for people to, slander him for these past couple of years, because you got to take into account that he was injured. You got to take into account that in 2020, he didn't have a quarterback. And all the other years before that, he's been a great running back. So I just feel like there's
But
no
the thing
reason.
is, though, like the issue is how people view Zeke. When someone is overrated, it's because where he's being placed versus his production as a running back. Where is Zeke rank amongst running backs? Is he a top 7 running back? I do not think so. According to the average fan, they probably believe Zeke is still a top 7 running back.
I mean, I do believe he's a top 7 running back.
That's absurd.
When he's healthy, he's definitely a top 7. He's definitely up there.
That's absurd.
The numbers speak for itself. If he doesn't get suspended in 2017, he's a 3-time rushing champ.
That's about 5 years ago.
But these last 2 years, he's played injured 1 year, and the year before that, he didn't have his quarterback, so teams are just stacking the box. So is it really fair to say that he's an overrated running back because just based off his production
and his production? Yes, with how people view him and his production, I think he should be considered overrated.
I mean, I just don't think it's fair when the dude's playing hurt. He's playing injured. I know obviously it wasn't smart for him to play on torn PCL, but at the end of the day, it's injuries happen in the game of football. And of course, if you lose your quarterback, every team you go up against is going to stack the box against you. So is it really that big? Is it really that big, to say that he's underrated?
We're going to see it. Zeke has no excuse this year, right? I mean, the Cowboys are going to rely on him. They lost offensive pieces in Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. We don't know if he's going to be 100% healthy to start the season. So they're definitely going to ride Zeke. And so this is the season to me where he shows whether he's the old Zeke or this is who he is now.
Yeah, I definitely believe this is a do or die year for Zeke as well. I don't believe, Tony Pollard is a threat to him in terms of taking a spot. I feel like that's Zeke's spot to lose, but he can't go ahead and get injured and play hurt again like he did last year. But I feel like this offense is going to really ride him heavy, because with the lack of weapons on the outside, losing Amari and losing Gallup, they're really going to look to Zeke a lot more this upcoming year. But before we move on from Zeke, Big H, I want to hear your thoughts as to why you believe he's a properly rated running back.
I believe he's properly rated. It's just you look at the past years, like you said last year, playing on a torn PCL. The year before with Dak getting injured, he hasn't had that opportunity to play like he was in 2016, 2017, the years he was rushing the rushing title. If he actually bounced back, coming back this year, healthy, Dak playing great, healthy old line, he's the same running back he was 2016, which he was properly rated. Top 3 running back, top 4 running back in the league.
Okay, I hear you. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next running back that we have on this list, Austin Eckler.
Yeah, I have him properly rated.
Properly rated.
After the last 2 years, people started giving him respect. So he's properly rated for me. They see his game, and he means a lot to that Chargers offense.
100%.
He'll go gadget. You can put him anywhere. He a little mini CMC, but just healthy. You feel me?
Yeah. No, 100%, man.
Yeah, I have him properly rated as well. Belis, what do you got him at?
You're muted.
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 Apologies. I have him properly rated as well. I feel like he's a great talent. So
Yeah, I can dig a little deeper on him if that's cool.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So me just looking at Austin Eckler, right? He's one of the most reliable players in his position when healthy. And although he's never broken over 1,000 rushing yards, he makes up for it in his pass catching abilities. I mean, at one point he had he had more receiving yards than rushing yards. And I think he was like 7 yards away from breaking 1,000 receiving yards. So which is pretty insane for running back. But this guy's extremely hard to stop for making an impact in games, because if you obviously stop the run, he's able to sneak out and catch the ball, get 10, maybe 12 yards. So this guy is one of the most, popularly rated running backs right now. Obviously, a couple years ago, he'd be underrated, but he's been making noise and basically backing up his work. So yeah, I got him properly rated.
He just opens the offense up so much.
Yeah, he's very versatile.
So reliable. So
Mike
reliable.
Williams, him going to the flats and Williams.
Yeah.
It's tough to guard, especially with
So
Keenan Allen
reliable.
too, playing in the slot. It's tough. But that's my guy, Eckler, though.
Yeah, I'm glad we came to an agreement of rating him as properly rated, because I agree with you guys as well. We'll go ahead and move on to the next running back that we have on this list. Might start a little bit of a discussion, but Alvin Kamara.
I think he's properly
Alvin
rated.
Kamara.
You said underrated, Chico?
No, I said properly rated.
Properly rated, okay.
Yeah.
This is a bit tough for me, but I have him slightly overrated.
Okay.
Mm.
I have him overrated as well. I'll get into that a little more later.
I'm gonna be on the slightly overrated part. A little digging into it. Slightly overrated. He's on the edge of properly rated, but slightly overrated though, just a little bit.
nah, it's crazy. I have him underrated actually. I feel like the amount of running back disrespect that he's getting. I mean, this is a guy that had 5 touchdowns in a game before. He's versatile. He's like one of the best. He's a Swiss Army knife. He's a player that just shifty. He does everything for you that you need. Pass catching. So I feel like he's getting underrated now. If guys are calling him overrated and stuff, if a guy that 2K almost all-purpose yards sometimes, that's ridiculous.
I mean, I'll go ahead and elaborate a little bit more as to why I have him as an overrated running back, because I'm pretty firm on that. I'm not on the fence with this guy. He's been in the league for 5 years. He's never had a season over 1K rushing yards, and he's never had a season over 1K receiving yards. And I get it. He's a dual threat running back. But I mean, at the end of the day, this guy gets put into comparisons like top five debates and stuff like that in terms of running back position. And like, if we're putting him in the top 5 and we're arguing or debating about that, like, I feel like we should argue about a guy we just talked about, Austin Eckler. Like, there's no reason we should, compare him. We should put up Alvin Kamara and just kind of keep Austin Eckler in the middle of the pack in like that top 10. There's just no excuse for that. I understand that he's a dual threat and he's an elite running back. But in terms of being a rusher, I don't think I think he's a slightly above average rusher compared to the people that are in the top 5 that, people try to compare him to, like Dalvin Cook, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, the list can go on and on. But I just feel like if he's able to, maybe stay a little bit more healthy, which possibly, of course, is out of his control, but, put up a season of 1K rushing yards and maybe, 800, 900 receiving yards, and maybe we can talk about him in a different light, maybe like put him into the top 5 conversation. But I feel like at this current moment right now, he's overrated, and I just need to see more from him.
I think this is the year that he gets the opportunity with the new coach. Sean Payne's out the door. It's going to be a different offense they're going to run. So we'll see if he can, the rushing attempts and the rushing yards, if they give him that, I feel like he can break that 1,000 yards rushing. But
I mean, he was pretty close last year to cracking 1,000 rushing yards.
yeah, like
At the end of the day, he was like 100 off, but at the end of the day, he wasn't healthy enough to, crack that 1,000. But maybe this upcoming season, he could prove me wrong and, show the world that he's an elite dual threat running back. I'm not really questioning that, but just more on the rushing side. I need to see a little bit more on that end of the field. But we'll go. With that being said, we'll go ahead and move on to Nick Chubb, and I'll go ahead and start us off on this one. I think he's extremely underrated.
Extremely underrated.
Underrated.
Extremely overrated.
underrated.
I'm gonna let Abdi go ahead and elaborate on
Hey,
this.
this is one of Abdi's favorite running backs. Right here.
This guy, just because of fantasy football, this guy literally does not get enough praise. But to me, the most underrated running back in the NFL. He broke a record of 5 yards per carry for his first 4 seasons. Never done before in the NFL. This guy, to me, the best pure rusher after Derrick Henry. And just because he can't catch, a lot of people tend to not give him his praise for it. But that's not his role in this offense. He's supposed to be a bruiser. He gets out. He rushes for a high amount of yards, and that's literally what he provides to his offense for the Browns. Even 2 years ago, right, 2019, I believe he rushed for 1,000+ yards in one of the worst offenses even back then. And so to me, what he provides in terms of broken tackles, elusiveness, overall as a running back, when I look at him, he a complete running back in the sense of what he provides rushing wise. And I don't really care that he can't catch because he has a guy named Kareem Hunt next to him, and that's not his role in this offense.
Be like,
I
wanna hear your thoughts.
the reason why I have him overrated is the simple fact that he's expendable in that team. And with Kareem Hunt there, I feel like the drop off isn't as bad as people think it is. Kareem Hunt is probably a blown bruiser just like he is. He runs hard. He's a tough nosed running back.
He's not close to him rushing wise.
No, not rushing wise. He's not close. It's not close, but it's not as close as you think it is. In my eyes. And
I mean, you could make that same argument if Kareem Hunt was in any single offense, he would be close to that running back. So that's just not really an argument.
No, you're talking hypotheticals again. All you talk.
No,
about,
it's not hypotheticals. It's like
Lamar. With Lamar, it's hypotheticals. It's anybody. It's hypotheticals.
Wait, how is this
But
hypothetical?
him having Hunt in the backfield and him still getting 1,300 yards.
It's ridiculous. It's nuts. I'll admit that. But I do not like the simple fact that he's made out to be this top 5 running back, top 7, whatever it is that people have it out to be. I feel like there's players in front of him that have better production, better talent, and it's shown on other teams when teams
There's
win.
not many running backs the last 3 years that have better production than Nick Chubb. Go check his stats.
I admit.
There's multiple years where he had 1,500, 1,300, 1,300, like 12. There's not much running backs better that
when Nick Chubb is healthy, he's a guaranteed 1,200 yards. I'll say that right.
Okay, my question to you is he a top 5 running back to you?
I believe so, yes. I believe he has an argument.
Is he better than JT, McCaffrey, Kamara, Dalvin?
He's better, in my opinion, he's better than Kamara, yes.
Better than Kamara?
Yes.
On what grounds?
On the fact
CMC hasn't been healthy the last few years.
Well, CMC injury prone, but just on the basis of it being CMC, I'm not gonna say anything about him. He obviously is top 5. Jonathan Taylor should be in that discussion as well. But when it comes to Alvin Kamara, like mentioned before, like when you look at all these like top 5, top 7 running backs, right? Look at their rushing wise, right? Alvin Kamara is, to me, the single-handedly worst rusher out of that group. And to me, being a running back, primarily your job is to rush the football, right? We get it. He's very versatile. But like at the same time, you can't not prop up a guy like Austin Eckler in that category and then have Alvin Kamara within that discussion. It just doesn't make any sense. And to me, it's not like Alvin Kamara's not on the same level of rushing like a guy like even CMC, right? And Nick Chubb, who's as elite as it gets, like this guy breaks every year. He leads the NFL in broken tackles alongside a guy like Derrick Henry. And we know how much, like, then that leads the discussion. Then BLS, how much do you rate Derrick Henry? Because if you're slating a guy like Nick Chubb, then what do you think about someone like Derrick Henry, who to me has like that similar skill set, obviously a better rusher, but has that same similar skill set to Nick Chubb?
I just gravitate more towards pass running. Pass catching running backs. I just love their game. I love how they're a Swiss Army knife. I feel like it opens up offenses more. Teams aren't gonna stack the box against you. They're gonna play zone. They're gonna play man. They're gonna have their players position wise. But once you have bone bruisers like that, I agree. You've seen how Derrick Henry runs. You've seen how Nick Chubb runs. They punish teams. They run it right down your mouth. And pause. But they run it right down your mouth, and that's pretty much all it is. I don't like that too. That's
so
all.
I don't. Abdi posed a very good question though. Does that mean like what are your thoughts on Derrick Henry though? Do you rate him as a running back, top 5, top 2, top 1?
I have him top 3. I have him as a top 3 running back. I love Derrick Henry.
So if you don't view Derrick Henry as an overrated running back, why do you view Nick Chubb as an overrated running back when they kind of do the same thing, but just Derrick Henry does it
the production
as at a higher level?
The production Chubb came with since his rookie year. It's been above 1,000 yards every single game, every single year. That's crazy to hold. That's crazy.
You remember how bad the Browns were.
He came into an offense where I think it was Freddie Kitchen, the coach at the time, and it was basically just the identity of the Browns offense was just.
I mean, it's still the
run it
same
down.
thing with Kevin
And it still is.
Stefanski.
Yeah, and it still is the same thing. So it's the system. It's I'm not gonna discredit the guy, but I mean it's the system. And if you look at systems, they bring the best out of players. Tom Brady, all these guys, whatever it is.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that point, just because he's been in the league for 4 years, 3 seasons over 1,000 yards. He was close his rookie year, 2 seasons over 1,200 yards. He has 2 top 2 finishes.
His rookie year, he missed 2-3 games. He ended up with 996 yards. So
he has 2 top 2 finishes in the rushing title race, and these 2 crazy facts that I found the other day. He's first in yards after contact and first in forced missed tackles. There's not a lot of running backs that can do what Nick Chubb does. And like Abdi mentioned, he's a top 2 rusher right after Derrick Henry, and after that, it's like a clear no debate. But we'll go ahead and move on to the wide receivers now. And the first receiver we have on this list is Keenan Allen, and I'll go ahead and mention that I believe he's a properly rated wide receiver.
I think he's still underrated.
I got him properly rated. He's been doing the same stuff the last 4.5 years.
Still not getting love, man.
Nah,
This is a bit odd, but I think he's kind of overrated.
I can't say he's overrated.
I believe he's 100% overrated.
Elaborate on that. Well, before we elaborate, Bilas, what are your thoughts on him?
Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen, I would definitely say is rightly rated. He's
Properly rated.
Properly rated. He's elite talent. I feel like he's probably I wouldn't say a top 5 wide receiver, but he's out on the cusp of that. That honorable mention, like 6'7".
He's right at that 8-9
So
spot.
that leads me to where I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That right there is why I believe that he's extremely overrated.
Why is that?
Keenan Allen, right? In my opinion, right, wide receivers to be in that top 5 category, right? In that top level.
I don't think he has him in his top 5 category, though.
The thing is, in that top level discussion, right? For me to our wide receiver to enter that discussion, you have to be an explosive playmaker, right? When you look at the guys in the top 5, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, right? There's a reason why a guy like Mike Evans, while he has been consistent, right? He's been consistent every single year. He hasn't broken that cusp of being a top 5 wide receiver just because of explosiveness, right? I think Mike Evans has had a season of 1,500 yards, but he's never been in that discussion for, he's a top 5 wide receiver. I feel like guys like A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, what they offered to offenses, what they offer to offenses are more valuable than Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's a technician. I get it. Third down, you go to him, right? He's going to run his route. He's going to break off and you're going to throw it to him, right? But in terms of taking the top off, right? We saw the Chargers last year, what Mike Williams was offering those first 8 games, right? When the offense completely took off, it's because of that ability. So I don't think Keenan Allen's in that discussion of guys where it's like he's next to 6 and 7 is like guys like Jamar Chase around that category. Stephon Diggs is in that area. There's no way Keenan Allen is next to a guy like Stephon Diggs. Absolutely not.
He earlier in his career, he had aging Phillip Rivers. So now that he has Herbert, I feel like he definitely will have better seasons and stuff than the 1,100 yards that he's having and stuff. That's mediocre for a player of his talent. His ability, his route running ability, his ability to get open is just probably unmatched. I feel like he's one of the best route runners in the league, heavily underrated route runner. And for you to say, that he doesn't get the big ball plays, he's intermediate. He's an intermediate wide receiver.
But he's not a yak wide receiver. That's like my biggest point here is like he's not a guy that's gonna explode on off.
He's never had that speed.
He's never been that way. He's never been that way.
He never came into the league as a speedy guy. Like he's not.
He shouldn't be seen in the same category as guys that can do that. He shouldn't be seen next to a guy like Stephon Diggs.
So do you value speed?
But him and Diggs almost had the same amount of stats this year, though.
Yeah.
Diggs ended
we seen what Diggs did the year before that. Diggs did drop off this year, but we seen Diggs the year before that.
And another thing is he plays. He's an Iron Man. 16 games, 14 games.
Last 5 years he's been healthy. 5 years he's been healthy. Every year above 1,000 yards.
Almost every year above 1,000 yards.
You can go to.
He's consistent. He's
like Stephon Diggs the year before had 1,500 yards. I don't think Keenan Allen's ever touched that and will ever touch that.
Yeah, his highest year was 1,339 yards. That was
with
Phillip Rivers.
Yo, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Keenan had over 100 receptions every year for the last 5
year.
Yes. Keenan Allen is as consistent as he gets as a wide receiver.
Yes, he's consistent for sure.
But like Abdi mentioned, it's kind of hard to put him in like the conversation of top 5 wide receivers because those other guys can do a little bit more than what Keenan Allen does.
No, definitely. I think he's definitely outside the top 10. That's for sure.
Yeah,
But-
that's very reasonable too.
Yeah.
It's just
Outside the top 10 is
For me, he's on the fringe of 10 and 9 because now you got like Abdi said, Diggs is outside of that top 5. You can throw in DeAndre. You could throw in DeAndre Hopkins when he plays a full season, and then you got Mike Evans, and then right there is like you can put Keenan Allen right there.
In my opinion, that's
Actually,
where
like
you
7,
sliding.
8, right?
That's where you sliding guys like Debo, Decaf, guys like that.
Yeah, I forgot Debo. See, then you put in Debo, Mike Evans.
That's where you sliding guys like
DK
that.
is not like with DK's quarterback situation. We're gonna see this year. Like, we're gonna see.
I just feel like
Go ahead.
I just feel like Keenan Allen's consistency is the reason why he's properly rated in terms of the eyes of the league and in my
Yeah, it's
opinion as
properly
well.
rated.
It's just he's just as consistent as it gets. But we'll go ahead and move on to the second receiver we have on this list, Michael Thomas, and I'll go ahead and say that I believe he's an underrated wide receiver at this point in his career.
Underrated.
Yeah,
I
underrated.
agree,
as well.
underrated as well.
I got him underrated because people forgot what he was doing. When he was
Yeah.
something.
I mean, yeah, if you miss he missed what 2 years, right? Of
2 years.
football.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, when you miss that, that's a lot of time to miss, And obviously, there's guys that come into the league, and obviously get better and produce more. And obviously, he becomes like a story of the past, basically. So now that he has like a chip on his shoulder coming into this season, like obviously, not people don't have him in the top 10 right now, right? You guys don't have him in your top 10. You guys,
I
the
believe
very
he's.
moment.
Not the very moment, and that's solely just
Not
because
the
he
very
hasn't played.
yeah, obviously,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I'm trying to say because solely he
Yeah.
hasn't played. And the fact that before he got hurt, he was obviously the number 1 receiver at the time. And now he's not even top 10 because he hasn't even played yet. I feel like he has a chip on his shoulder and he has, a lot to prove. And coming to the season, I feel like
A
he's
lot of
definitely
people. A lot of
underrated.
people have been attacking him the last 2
Slant
years.
boy.
Yeah, he been
Yeah, Slant-
sitting out.
No,
due
people
to
forget this is
personal problems.
he broke the NFL record for receptions in a season with 140 plus. He was cooking up. He was on
1,700
that,
yards. You forget 1,700 yards.
like
It's
he
crazy.
was at the top of his game, and that injury, like he rushed back from it. They tried to rush him back, and he set it back. So it was a rough 2 years, but I feel like I love Michael Thomas. Like
I really just want to elaborate a little bit more on Michael Thomas on why I have him as underrated. This 4-year stretch that he went on for these last couple of years, 92 receptions, 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns, 104 receptions, 1,200 yards, 5 touchdowns, 125 receptions, 1,400 yards, 9 touchdowns, and then of course 149 receptions, 1,700 yards, 9 touchdowns. I mean, if this guy can just stay healthy and be on the field, there's no doubt in my mind, he's like a top 6, top 7 receiver in this league. So
I was just about to ask you that.
I'm just glad that we're all able to agree that he's a severely underrated receiver, and I'm looking forward to what he does this year with Jameis Winston and that new New Orleans Saints offense. The next receiver that we have on this list is Deebo Samuel. I'll go ahead and say he's properly rated.
Properly rated for me.
Yeah, properly rated.
He's a hooper.
Overrated.
Properly rated.
That's another go.
Getting up
But
there.
it was
overrated.
in my opinion, if someone argued he was overrated, I wouldn't be mad solely because he made the All-Pro team, which I don't think he should have made it.
I agree with you on that. I feel like guys like Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson definitely got robbed out of that award and that first team All-Pro spot. But I feel like with this new offense, this new game plan or this new scheme that they have him in, where he's running the ball a lot more, that's his bread and butter, in my opinion. In terms
I don't feel like he was robbed. What he did for the Niners is like he was the most key important player on that offensive side.
I mean, but at the end of the day, though, when you're listing the All-Pro positions, for wide receivers, there were guys like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase that had better seasons than him. The only thing that separated Deebo from those two guys is the fact that he was running the ball,
or just in general season. Because you got to add the factor Deebo running the ball is a big part of his game. You can't just take that away from him and say that it doesn't count towards the position wise.
I mean, but at the end of the day, though, it's the receiver spot that you're giving the award to, the person the award to. Like you're giving him that
it's like CMC,
that title.
It's like CMC a couple years ago, him being a receiving back, getting 1,300 yards for catching and 1,300 yards running. You give him that title because of what? He's a running back, but you're going to list him. You're going to take away his receiver stats.
The thing is with CMC though is the fact that he had 1,000 rushing and 1,000 receiving. Deebo Samuel wasn't necessarily that crazy as what he did in terms of rushing the ball as a receiver. I understand that he had more touchdowns running than he did catching the ball, but I just feel like at the end of the day, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, they definitely had better receiving seasons than Deebo. But I'm not going to take that away from him. He got that award, that first team All-Pro. He got that nod from the league. The only thing that I feel like was holding him back his entire career is the fact that he's been injured. He hasn't been able to stay healthy.
No, definitely.
Last year, it felt like last year first full
It's
year.
the most healthy
Yeah.
season.
That was
He
like
was still taking knocks and bruises along the way, but he wasn't like fully up.
I mean,
know,
when he is healthy, he shows you why he's one of the best receivers in the game. I mean, just use last year as an example, where he finished 5th in receiving yards with 1,405 with 14 total touchdowns, and he finished second in yaks, yards after catch. And obviously, like for me as a receiver, I don't like the fact that he had more rushing yards, rushing touchdowns than receiving touchdowns. But I don't know how you guys feel about that. But as a wide receiver, I feel like having more receiving yards would be the way. But obviously, the way that the Niners game plan, obviously, rushing the ball was a key factor in them winning a lot of ball games. But
And Jimmy G as your quarterback, so it's.
I mean, Jimmy G as well. But just the fact that he's a wide receiver having more rushing touchdowns than receiving touchdowns just doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. But I mean, I just wish they gave JJ that first team all pro, but that's neither here nor there.
They don't. No, they're not supposed to give it to wide receivers that are in top 5.
Whatever you say, man. We'll go ahead and move on to a wide receiver that I think this receiver is going to start a little bit of a debate and discussion. Cooper Kupp.
Properly rated.
Properly rated.
Properly rated.
Big H.
Properly rated.
BLS.
Best receiver in the NFL last year.
You haven't properly rated BLS?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, I guess I'm the only one that has him overrated, but I'll go ahead and elaborate on that then. I just believe, one great season, Triple Crown. I hear that, but look at the numbers. 2 out of the last 5 years in his career, it's only twice he's gone over 1,000 receiving yards. There's really no consistency when you really look at the numbers. He doesn't get guarded by the best DBs because he cooks up in the slot, and that's just what he's just doing what the system is telling him to do. He's a technician. He's not going to really beat you on the outside over the top against the best DBs.
I actually disagree with that part. I don't think he's a technician. I think he'll beat you over the top. And we saw that in the playoffs. This guy opens up defenses. I just like the Cooper Kupp slander just doesn't make any sense to me. It's like why don't teams just adjust? Like if it's that simple as he's guarding the best, he's being guarded by the worst defender, right? Why aren't teams adjusting to him? Why did he thoroughly dominate in the playoffs?
His route tree.
The thing is, I don't understand, right? Cooper Kupp, to me, he's a very, very solid route runner, right? He has, to me, elite hands, right? And he's a great runner after the catch. He's not a technician whatsoever, in my opinion. He's, in terms of being a wide receiver, he's as solid and complete as it gets.
Yes, sneaky speed.
Yes, he is very sneaky speed as well. He can go over the top. He can come underneath. He can run after the catch. So to me, to paint Cooper Kupp as just like, oh, he's being guarded by like the worst DBs, and why weren't teams adjusting towards that?
Yeah, once they saw the streak of the 100-yard games, you would think teams would adjust.
You would
right?
think teams at some point we're just like, okay, this guy's clearly their best offensive weapon.
Yeah,
we got to take him away.
You weren't double teaming him. He was just getting one-on-ones with corners.
I mean, at the end of the day, though, the elite cornerbacks, we all know where they line up. They line up on the outside. When Devontae Adams lines up with plays Jalen Ramsey, he's telling Jalen Ramsey, "Yo, you line up with me. I'm gonna be on the outside. You follow me wherever I go." I don't think you can say that for a guy that plays a slot position.
But the funny thing is, the offense is created around Cooper Kupp. That's the thing. The whole offense is based off him playing in the slot.
But let me go ahead and give you these numbers though, which when I found them, they were a bit extreme in my opinion. In the slot, he had 117 receptions, 1,680 yards, and 12 touchdowns. And outside of the slot or any other position on the field, he had 28 receptions, 267 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Like, why are we trying to give this guy? I understand we're gonna give him all the praise because he had a hell of a season, Triple Crown. But like, he's doing his damage in the slot. What's stopping me from saying this? Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams. If you line them up in the slot, what's stopping me from saying they can't put up these numbers? Like Tyreek Hill. Like, what's stopping me from saying that?
I mean, where I have Cooper Kupp is 4th in the league. I have him as my 4th best wide receiver. The first 3 to me is Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, and then Cooper Kupp. And then I have Jamar Chase at 5.
Oh, wow. That Cooper Kupp disrespect is getting a bit outlandish. And then I don't know. I feel like his talent is...
The only reason why I have Cooper Kupp finishing only 4th is the point of mentioning is just simply consistency for me. If he's able to replicate another season of 1,400 plus yards,
I feel like last year was an anomaly. I'm confused.
Well, I mean, anytime you go for 1,900 yards, that's practically an anomaly stats.
It is. I mean, I don't think that. I don't think the drop off with Robert Woods gone now. I feel like he's going to even get fed more.
I mean, they brought in Allen Robinson, who's better than Robert Woods.
Robinson is he's a deep threat. He's a deep
You
threat.
gotta
He's not
understand
Robert
the
Woods.
regression, regardless of the
Regression is
situation,
gonna hit.
It's gonna hit.
Listen,
To me, what I'm looking for Cooper Cup is he's even able to replicate whatever 1,400 yards and get his 10 touchdowns. That's fine.
That's what I project for him.
That's fine.
Actually, I
me,
haven't projected at 1,600. Actually, I feel like the drop off isn't going to be as severe that everybody thinks it is. It's teams are going to start, double teaming him. He's going to get double coverage and stuff. But I just feel like his talent is just off the charts. And
I'm not saying the guy's not talented. Don't get me wrong. It just doesn't make any sense to me why we're putting him in conversations against guys like Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, guys like DeAndre Hopkins. I can go down the list.
So my
answer was never questioned. My question was never answered. What's stopping me from saying Devontae Adams and Justin Jefferson, if you line them up in the slot, they can't put up the same numbers Cooper Cup did this last season?
And there's a reason why I have those guys better than Cooper Cup. But then my counterpoint is, why do you, if anything, have Cooper Cup as a top? Why should I have Cooper Cup as a top 7 wide receiver on the basis of, but he plays in the slot? What excuse can I use now? What can Cooper Cup do about that if he's elite in the role that he plays? Right? What reason should we have a guy like Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase? Why don't we just keep adding wide receivers on top of that on the basis of, but if you put them in the Cooper Cup role, they would have done well? That doesn't make any sense when Cooper Cup's elite in that role. There's not many wide receivers outside the top 4, maybe top 5, that can replicate the same production that Cooper Cup had. And in my opinion, honestly, I don't think a guy like Stephon Diggs replicates what Cooper Cup did in that role. Absolutely not.
I mean, at the end of the day, the only problem I have with it is I just feel like those other guys that I mentioned that are ahead of him on my list, Hill, JJ, Devontae Adams, he's not going to be in conversations against those guys, no matter what he does, even if he's consistent. But of course, he's going to have a regression compared to what he put up last year. He's just not going to be in that conversation with those other guys because it's just based on the fact that he's not lining up with the best of the best each and every week. And at the end of the day, that's what I look for in a receiver. If you're able to beat the best of the best and put up numbers against the best of the best, that means that, you're one of the best receivers in the league. Like, I understand Cooper Cup is an elite slot receiver and he's an elite receiver in this league. I understand that. But just in my opinion, he's overrated because I believe the system kind of does favor him a little bit. But I'm not saying that if he goes to a different team, he can't put up numbers. He's not going to put up those numbers that, you guys are expecting to put up this year. I think somebody mentioned 1,400 yards or even this numbers he put up this last year, 1,900 yards, or, something crazy like that. But at the end of the day, that's where I have Cooper Cup. And I've been meaning to have this conversation on this podcast because, it's crazy where people are putting him in top 5 rankings and lining him up and compared to, guys like DA and JJ.
So then what can Cooper Cup do to break that threshold of being top 3? Like what, like if he's
just going to have to, I'll answer your question right now. He's just going to have to work outside of that system. I understand the system
hold on. Won't the defense that he's playing, right? Won't those elite corners step out of their position, come guard him in the slot? Why does that?
We've never seen that in the league though.
No, but why do we have to have Cooper? But you got Cooper Cup playing like an Edelman position on steroids. How are you gonna take that?
Because at the end of the day, that's not common in the NFL.
Right, literally,
there's a lot of stuff not common. But back in the day when they didn't have running quarterbacks, it was only Michael Vick. It was not common,
bro. But like what I'm trying to say is like it's not common to have an elite cornerback like Jalen Ramsey guarding somebody in the slot. If you want to have Jalen Ramsey guard you, you know where to find him. It's not hard. You just you put him on the outside.
For a guy coaching teams getting 1,900 yards in a season just playing out of slot, some defenses are gonna have to adjust. Are they scared to put the number 1 on the slot? What's gonna happen then?
I mean, I think teams are gonna have to adjust, obviously, after what Cooper Cup did this past year. But at the end of the day, for me to have him, in conversations with those 3 guys that I mentioned, he's just gonna have to work outside of the system because Devontae Adams is not a system wide receiver. Justin Jefferson, he's not a system wide receiver. Tyreek Hill, the list goes on and on. We're gonna see
Tyreek Hill this year with a new.
Those guys they play outside of the system.
We saw the clip of Tua underthrowing Tyreek Hill about 5 yards. So
I saw. I don't think.
But it's not a system though. Like that.
I know what you mean. Like Tyreek Hill's gonna thrive wherever he goes.
Yeah, and it's not like he's set in one position. Tyreek Hill, you can put him anywhere on the field, and there's not. In Kansas City, there was not a system that was set for him. It was just, go make a play. You got Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback. He's going to find you. So that's why I don't really rate Cooper Cup like that compared to those guys. But at the end of the day, one thing that I'm looking for that I'll say again is consistency because, you've been in the league 5 years and you only have 2 seasons over 1,000 yards, and of course, you know, 1 great season in Triple Crown. I'm just gonna need to see more out of you. It's just plain and simple.
Yep. We'll see though this year.
We'll see. Any final words, fellas, before we wrap things up?
I ain't got nothing else to say about
None
that.
else.
Fantastic episode though.
Lamar Jackson's not a quarterback. I'm gonna leave it at that. That debate earlier made my head hot, man. I need to go.
I mean, I'd rather have Lamar as my quarterback than Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickle, but I digress.
And that name's sticking, huh? Kenny Pickle.
Kenny Pickle, that name is sticking.
That name is sticking like glue, man.
And that's the CDL class right there with that quarterback, man. Relax. He ain't going nowhere, man.
No, tell him 3 months of study, he got it. He'll start driving trucks.
Hey, is there a coding boot camp in Pittsburgh?
There might be.
There might be a coding boot camp.
Lamar might want to pick up a McDonald's manager for job.
We'll go ahead and take
Uncle DMB. He's gonna be out of a job soon.
We'll go ahead.
To get 250 mil, bro.
He's about to get
Hey,
his entire generation about to
might
get
be
paid.
the worst bag ever. And my team, I have Bradley Beal that got 250.
We'll go ahead and get into quarterbacks in another episode. But with that being said, I want to go ahead and say thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Really appreciate your love and support. We'd really appreciate it if you like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at New Media Podcast. For those of you that are watching us on YouTube, in the beginning of this video, all of our social media handles will be there. And for those of you that are listening to us on Apple and Spotify, if you follow us at our Instagram page at New Media Podcast, you'll be able to navigate yourself to all of our social media pages. So with that being said, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Record a new hit, then we making us a film. Wouldn't sign a deal if I got a couple mil. Been in the lab, now they throwing out deals. Me and now Lakes, now that's overkill.